On. And we are recording on Wednesday, December 20th, 2023 at 1:08 p.m. Eastern Time. I just said the date. It's the last episode of the year, episode 1395. I think the first episode of the year was Insurrection Cast with Tom and Jim and not Dave. And that's one of the reasons I am here. I'm sick as fuck. I'm vomiting and shitting my pants, but I refuse to not be present for this because I saw what happened when Dave wasn't here. And right now that video, which was just inside jokes, is right now at 1.2 million views, and that's terrifying to me. It is
What?
it is the
What?
second highest out of all 1,395 episodes. It
One
is
point something million
1.2
views?
million is us just making fun of you
Okay,
for 3 hours.
listeners, you guys have to get a life.
Yeah.
That's fucked
Seriously, like
I
if you
I
guys
don't
tune in that much.
By
to
the way,
listen to
Tom, what day were we on together with Rudy? What was that, Monday?
that was Monday. It was Monday, right?
Okay. So
Yeah,
we're out of
and then-
gas. We
Yeah.
used up all our ammo.
Yeah, you're good.
I don't know about that, Dave, but I know
No.
we used a lot of it the other day. But I don't know about you, but I'm like Russian artillery. So
Yeah, we just keep marching. Well, and on artillery, we're talking about shit updating and how it's millennials justifying their jobs and how that's probably all of human. And everyone, you know who you are. They go to the description, follow their Twitters. If you look at the arms of Krupp, Krupp, it was like a 400-year-old German. I think it's still around. Just like artillery manufacturer. And as they started to really saturate the market with artillery, they didn't know what else to do, so they started making barbed wire, which they sold to both sides in World War One. So like it may not I was saying it as a meme, but it really might not be like that. That might be all of human history coming together and an odd Howard Bloom, we've had on here a million times before, talks about he's like, you tweak one little thing with an electron and a proton, and then a couple layers later, you have a ham sandwich, and you have no idea how you get there. But there are these reverberations throughout, like just reality, and that might be it. Like you never know who had the job idea for barbed wire, which led to this, which led or mass-produced barbed wire, sorry, which led to that. And next thing you know, like the Ottoman Empire is over. Like it might actually be something like that. So, Tom, you're smiling. How
that's
tie
just
that
hilarious.
tie that
That's
into
it's a
today.
great way of putting it. And
Well, it's just the old butterfly effect, is it not?
That's yeah. I'm
It's just-
stroking out. I'm the youngest one here. And I'm not getting oxygen in my
I
brain.
just like the way you put that, Tommy. It's like,
Yeah, I should have said butterfly.
Hey,
effect.
who had the barbed wire contract? Now Ottoman Empire's gone. It's like it's hilarious.
But legitimately is like what happened, and all this tanks.
Yeah.
Tanks were originally because they were bringing up huge tanks of water, of drinkable water, and they didn't want them getting shot up, and so they would start putting like wood around them, and they just called them tanks. And as they started to get, and I know I'm skewing the history a little bit here, but if as they started to be like, well, hey, we've already got this fucker on treads, we just put a gun on it, shoot back. And now, like 120 years later, there are Abrams tanks rolling through Israel, vaporizing Hamas faggots. And like, that's a kind of another crazy thing. Drinking water to the front, vaporizing children in a somewhat of an entertaining way. Tom, bail me out of this.
No, I can't do that, sir. I am not touching that one with a 10-foot
Oh, I got to throw up. I got to go.
Or Dave's dick. No way. Neither way.
You have passed the fail-safe point on that, right?
All right. Well,
I think you're gonna have to ask the resident Jew.
When you start talking about precious bodily fluids, like
precious bottle.
Well, vaporizing kids in an entertaining way. That's the one that.
Well, it happens
no
anyway.
way to bail out of that one, Tommy.
Yeah,
well, it happens. What happens? Fine. I'll fucking I'll tap myself.
Reference.
All right. Well, we're already vaporizing kids anyway. We've been doing it for all of time. We've been doing. I mean, World War II. They had little fucking. They had little drummer boys going getting vaporized by. I guess World War II is German 88s. Might as well get something out of it now. Might as well get.
Did you hear that one about the woman who says, my husband and I've decided we don't want to have kids. We're going to tell them at dinner.
Oh. Yeah. Sending them to Ukraine. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Do you think what is it, Colorado taking Trump off the ballot? Is that actually going to go to the Supreme Court? Is that actually going to stand? Is this the beginning of the Civil War, or is it just like an?
I think it could be an interesting inflection.
Yeah,
myself.
Yeah,
it's about as preposterous as you can get at about the highest level you can get of supposed seriousness. this is a Supreme Court of a state
Mm.
making an absolutely preposterous judgment that a guy's an insurrectionist based on no charges of insurrection, no conviction on insurrection, just some story that they're making up among the several justices. And, here's what it shows me and tells me. What we're seeing in lawfare is basically feminine dirty fighting. This is how girls fight, by having no rules that they're willing to observe. And, it's really a form of faggotry, really.
It's reputational attack, Jim. You're absolutely right. That's really a great way to think about it. Women attack your reputation. Men just, fight. What's interesting about this, I watched something this morning by Viva Fry, and he was talking about this thing. Or it might have been last night when the judgment came down, or this thing came down. He said, "Look, this is a bullshit order. Like they've stayed their own order until they don't even believe in their own order. They stayed their own order until the Supreme Court weighs in, right?" And the whole point of it, I think the point that he was making, and he was also paraphrasing his partner Robert Barnes on this, to which I agree with both of them on this one, which is that this is just chum. This is laying the groundwork for hoping that somebody will get really outraged and go, I don't know, stage an insurrection against the Colorado Supreme Court. Now, what Fry didn't go into in this 12-minute video, which is the obvious thing, which is that clearly, if they're trying to set up that situation, that, okay, well, just add feds and let's just create that moment anyway, so that then they can justify to everybody, they can create their real outrage moment so that they can manufacture consent to bully the Supreme Court into saying, no, Trump can't be on the ballot because, MAGA-tards are, bad people. And it's so clearly in the next week and a half up until January 4th, we have to now watch out for some group of feds with their high and tights and their walkie-talkies and all the rest of it, creating a quote unquote false flag over the Colorado Supreme Court. That's, I think the biggest takeaway from this.
I think that's a good theory, actually. I think that it was so preposterous. It was so preposterous that I think a first-year law student would know it was preposterous. I think a fifth grader would know it's preposterous.
I think a social studies student would know it was preposterous.
And so that it's almost so preposterous that if they were Republican-nominated justices, I'd say they were doing it to help Trump.
Yeah.
Right. And the fact that they're all Democrat appointees tells me, well, that can't be the theory. I mean, there's some reason why they did it. They sacrifice complete credibility, 100% down the drain.
There is some weird hyper-normalization that, we know this is what they're doing. And Alexander Solzhenitsyn, right? They know, right. We know, they know, we know, they know, we know. And we're all just kind of watching the trains go at each other from a distance.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you say to yourself, what's the grander strategy if they even have one? Well, clearly it's to continue to undermine. And look, if they get the win, they get the win, right? They get to take Trump off the ballot, and then H-1B Obama, Ramaswamy, goes out. Well, I'm going to take myself off the ballot because this is wrong. I urge everybody else to do it. I'm like, oh, shut up! Stop simping for Trump. And then
but they guaranteed no one else will do it.
Right, and moreover, the reality, if they get Trump off the ballot using this, well, then they get the win, and if they don't, then they get to undermine everybody's faith in the judicial system that much further. The goal is always the grander strategy is always destroy the credibility of the United States at every level, destroy the political, the legal system, the political system.
So these are Soros appointees then by that model.
They are, and they are.
Oh, is that true?
In some ways, yeah. No, that's what this is about, right? And so we just have to not rise to the occasion. We just have to look at them and go, "Oh, that was funny." No, it's not working.
Well, the part that doesn't really add up also is why would they do this to their own reputations?
Well, that's
they
reputational
sacrifice suicide.
Everything. They sacrifice everything for this stupid game.
Of course. But they don't care because they've been promised the gold watch, Jim. They don't care about their own reputation.
But you know, this lawfare thing is becoming such a ubiquitous, evil, just evil thing in our culture. You know, an analog to this Colorado Supreme Court thing was the Brandon Straka case. He was the guy Brandon Straka was a gay fella who
turned right wing, right?
Yeah, and he was getting people to leave the Democratic Party. That was his campaign. And he went to the January 6th protest demonstration to you know, to play his role and just be present there. But he wasn't, you know, anyway, he got sued by half a dozen Capitol Police guys who were all black for causing them some kinds of injury and distress. It turns out that 5 of them were on the other side of the building. And when I say the other side of the building, this is a building that's a quarter of a mile, you know, long. It's fucking huge. And the 5th guy or the 6th guy was out of the District of Columbia in Maryland. And they sued him for, you know, for bodily injury, causing them bodily injury. How did this suit even go forward? And how does he not turn around and you know, sue the federal attorneys for malicious prosecution and sue these fucking Capitol Police for, you know, for defamation? And I suppose the reason for that is that it would only end up in a DC district court, meaning there's no point in pursuing it because you'd only get a DC jury who would never go along with your suit. So, but you know, this is just the worst sort of dirty fighting, and I don't know how it's going to stop. I don't know who's going to stop him, but it's got to stop, and it's got to stop in some sort of definitive way that doesn't involve, you know, violence or knocking off, you know, public figures. You know, there's got to be some kind of interventional authority who comes in. Now, you know, one of the questions that hasn't been answered to my satisfaction for the last couple of years, all of the Supreme Court justices have some kind of jurisdiction over a region that they're assigned to. Like Sotomayor is assigned to the New York districts of the federal courts, and so on. John Roberts is assigned to the DC federal district. And he has some kind of supervisory capacity.
I think he also is assigned to Epstein Island, but that's a separate issue.
Well, that's what they say. Yeah, that's what they say.
Yeah,
however, you know, he has some kind of supervisory authority, and nobody is asking him why he doesn't step in and use it. And I'm wondering why that is.
Well, I do know.
Putting it out there.
That's a really good point.
And I don't know what their you know, regulatory authority is, but they have some say in how their district is being run.
So I've read a lot of books lately on rising authoritarianism, authoritarian states, and the 2 properties that keep showing up are demoralization and confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And this looks like a perfect playbook. They're gaslighting the shit out of all of society.
And they're taking the only remedy that really people feel they have, which is the courts, and completely disabling it and making it appear that you can have no faith in.
Well, they've done that perfectly. They've done that perfectly.
Yes, they have. Yes, they have.
But you know, you really got to wonder, because there are an awful lot of lawyers in this country who are not radical leftists. And why is the opposition to this so impotent? Anybody got a clue or a guess?
I do know one thing is OBS is fucking up, and it's not. Is never
OBS. Tell me OBS.
OBS is what streams my screen. So like we're
Okay.
talking on Zoom, OBS is the thing I use to stream it to Rumble. I've never had OBS crash, and it's not.
Rumble's been crashing lately.
Yeah, but yeah, well, and from DDoS attacks from all located in DC, I've never once had OBS crash, and it crashed about 3 minutes into us talking. I never look at chat. People are in chat going, why is it stopping? I've never.
We're converting Jim we've talked about this before. We're converting Jim from a guy who I recall being rather disgusted by conspiracy theories to a complete Alex Jones wackadoodle.
It's not connecting. And so well, I'm still recording it. Doesn't matter. I'll just upload it. And it might boot back up. But yeah, no, I mean, in terms of reasonable explanations, Jim, I don't think there is any. I don't think you can find a reasonable explanation within the framework of what we accept to be discourse and the political process and the legal process. If none of it's adding up, it's because there's fuckery afoot.
Yeah,
I like to occasionally ask, sort of what would you like to have the answer key to, right? One of these things where in chemistry as well, we'll face a problem that's so complicated. We're not getting to the bottom of this. Usually we get there, but there's times where I just go, okay, I'll skip the whole publication thing. Give me the fucking answer key. I just want to know what the hell's going on. And that's where I'm at now, where there's just things that I go, I wish there were a way to just have someone say, okay, here's what you're missing. There have to be people who know the answers, right? There are people who know the answers. There's no one who knows the whole picture. So I was on I tell you about the Zoom group I used to be on that had Robert Kennedy, all sorts of guys on it. One guy in it was a national security analyst. And did I tell you this story?
No.
I don't want to repeat it if I did. And one day we're talking about the vaccine. This was a twice a week Dr. Zoom group. They'd invite every anti-vaxxer on the planet went through there. By the way, did you see Archbishop Vigano this week? Came out and called Hillary and all the authorities a bunch of pedophiles. Oh, he nailed them. He nailed them. I mean, he ripped them and he said, you can't explain geopolitics without invoking pedophilia. That's what he said. That's what I've been writing about. It was a mother.
Where is he an archbishop?
I don't know. I think he's in the Vatican.
Oh,
I mean, he's been outspoken. He came to our Zoom group just to give you an idea how far we reach, right? And so
thanks, Tom.
I lost my train of thought, but that's okay. What was I supposed to be?
Conspiracies and
nothing adding up.
Yeah.
Yeah. And fuck, it's gone. It's gone.
If nothing's adding up, the political process, then there's fuckery afoot. If you want to see who has the answers to everything,
yeah. So you're
skip to the back of the book and find the answers to the okay.
Get the key to
I want the answer key. Yeah.
Fucking Dave's stroking out.
I'm stroking out. I actually had a kid on my course evaluations actually suggest. He says, "Look, I'm being totally sincere. I think you have a mental disorder."
So thank you.
No. He actually said, I think you ought to go get checked out. I think you have a mental disorder. You know why?
Because you're concerned about your country.
Well, because several said I was too political and I had never mentioned Biden or Trump or anyone. And then I realized, though, about 6 times during the semester, I let rip with something to bait them. And I would say, it turns out the vaccine probably cost more lives than it saved. And just to shock them, or I'd say climate change is the biggest hoax in history. I just saw that. No one ever came back to me and said, could you show me something on this? I'm intrigued by what you said. No one ever did, but they view that as political.
What's funny is these are the same people as we've identified, Dave, as we've talked about this before, that this is a generation that wants to be told by their quote unquote betters, by the people higher up the knowledge chain than them, what to think, right? And yet here you are as a subject matter expert
telling them what to think.
Right. Well, telling them, oh, by the way, this is what's going on. This is my opinion, and then they absolutely just reject it because it's not what they already think they know.
Well, you got to imagine what it's like to have some guy tell you that climate change is a hoax when you've been told by every authority figure in your life since daycare,
yes,
that it's a crisis.
Yes.
So that would be like telling some devout Catholic that that there is no Pope. It's all a hoax.
The people from Rumble are looking into it right now. What you're saying about being told by an authority figure, my buddy Don, the combat veteran, and he's a fucking brilliant geopolitical guy, but he always talks about it. He's like you and I look at he said it about everything, but it applies to now. You and I, we all look at like what's happening at the Colorado Supreme Court. We know it's horseshit. It's not for us. It's for people that have the predisposition and they want to hear the authority figure, not Dave tell them something they don't want. They want the authority figure to tell them what they want to be true. And God damn it, Donald Trump. I mean, Howard Stern, that fucking cuck. He came out like yesterday, and it's the same cookie
he's a
cutter.
total douchebag.
They
He's
always,
a total douchebag.
I almost want to stop swearing because the way I watch liberals now, because whenever I see them use the word fucking, it's so bad. It's always in the sense of fucking democracy is on the ballot. And it's
Tommy,
like,
if
it's not
you stop
cool.
swearing, the silence would be deafening.
It would be,
Well,
but no, but really,
now I remembered what I wanted to say. NSA guy in my Zoom group.
okay.
Oh, okay. Cool.
And we asked, we kept talking about they, right? The they was, Gates, whatever. And I said, Stephen, who's, so the funny part of the story is one day he starts going off on Hegelian philosophy. And I'm going, oh boy, we didn't all know each other. That's the thing. And he's talking about Hegelian philosophy and shit. And at first I think he's losing his mind. And then he's starting to make sense. I go, where's he going with this? And someone says, what are you, a professor of philosophy or something? He said, no, I'm a lawyer, but I used to be a national security analyst. And we had to study the Arabs, and they follow Hegelian philosophy. If you want to understand them, you got to speak Hegelian. You got to know that like the back of your hand. And I asked who the they is, and he said, I don't like to name names. This is very important. He says, I don't like to name names because if I do, then you'll say, okay, now we understand problem solve was for dinner, basically, right? So if you say Bill Gates is the source, it pinpoints the evil to a simplistic answer that then allows you to stop thinking. And I realize that there's a lot of ways in society where we inadvertently get ourselves to stop thinking, as opposed to keeping the debate open. And so, there's some that are intended to do it, like calling someone a conspiracy theorist, things like that. But there's just calling someone stupid. Kamala Harris is an idiot. Clearly, she's an idiot.
And then it's the end.
But below the surface is, then why are they letting her speak? Who's writing her speeches that are so stupid?
It's
why are they writing those stupid speeches? There's many, many more questions about Kamala that are shut down by saying Kamala's an idiot, which, by the way, the guy who runs the Babylon Bee, the head, said, I've got this terrible job where I've got to be funnier than Kamala Harris.
No, but there is something about it, though, that you're hitting on that I've been thinking about more and more lately. And it's this weird, and it was completely apolitical when I was thinking about it. I don't know why this year I've been thinking about it, but like how logic kind of stops at these like cliche statements, and not science, not equal and opposite reaction, not whatever the spin of an atom. It's when you say something, even if it's accurate, which I think most of us, a penny saved, a penny earned. The early bird gets the worm. When you say it, it's just this stopping point of it's like when, my mom would be trying to like discipline me and my three brothers, and we'd be total assholes. And then dad would come in, and it didn't matter.
This is my shock face here.
Didn't matter what the logic was. When dad said we're doing this now, it was the end. It was the truce. It was the peacekeeper force rolling in with tanks, and it was just the war was over. And that same way, so many times, and it's in virtually all the time, it's not nefarious. It's just like, well, you know what they say, Jim, it goes around, comes around. And a lot of times it is true, but sometimes people just say something like, early bird gets the worm. Like, I don't know about that, man. There's still 16 hours of working and then 8 hours of sleeping.
The meek shall inherit the earth.
Absolutely not.
Is that all about?
The meek shall inherit the earth. Yeah, that's written above the fucking E-ring in the Pentagon, you fucking retards. No, it's $900 billion of death machines. So my point is there are these almost stop points where the thought just stops. You go, well, freaking Joey Biden. Everyone goes, what an asshole. And then it's the end. And it's like, wait, no, what do you mean? What do you mean? No. Why did we send money to Iran and Israel? What is that? Why is that happening? Why is Biden meeting outside of Ukraine talking about how U.S. special forces are there? And then
why is Putin selling diesel to Zelensky?
Yeah, but that's because Putin's a fucking murderer.
I have an answer.
Because at the end of the day, well, that's funny. On that point, Alex Craner reminded me a long time ago, which is that in every war, like the goods don't stop flowing during the war. Like,
No.
Well,
the
the simpler
they are
answer.
buying diesel fuel against. You know, they're selling one side food and the other side gasoline because they still have to like do the thing, right?
Armies march on full stomachs. Yeah, it doesn't.
And
Well,
you
but
know,
also
and
they're just
diesel
going to
fuel.
blow the shit out of it anyway, so they might as well sell it first.
Oh no, yeah, exactly.
too.
No, it's total win. But that is an odd thing, which isn't unique to this election or this country really. But I do like that you pointed out is it's this weird natural stopping point where we all just agree it's Bill Gates. Oh, fucking Bill Gates.
So,
The end.
my
Oh, yeah,
my
no,
NSA
always.
buddy, who by the way is on Twitter, his name is Stephen Coughlin. He kind of described the oligarchy as a self-assembling oligarchy, and so he said they don't know each other. They have common interests, and the metaphor I ended up using when I wrote about this was a murmuration of starlings, which is an extraordinary organization, way cooler than a school of fish. And you ask, well, which starling is running that operation? The answer is none.
Yeah.
There is some reason why they all fly together that way, and I guarantee you, whoever has explained it is wrong, because it's got to be complicated.
There's one thing that explains it to my satisfaction.
Sure.
You know,
starlings or what?
maybe not starlings, but the behavior of this blob, this deep state blob,
Mm-hmm.
and or not just the American deep state blob, but the international global blob, plus the U.S. And it's this uniting thing that all the behavior that we're seeing is basically a desperate attempt to cover up previous crimes, because they've added up so much now, you know, I mean, from, you know, the Skokovo thing with Hillary Clinton and the Uranium One thing and the 2016 election and the Russiagate and the impeachment and Eric Charmella and Alexander Vindman and fucking Adam Schiff and, you know, all of this.
And I'm going to hurl in there with pretty good confidence now, Pizzagate.
Well, yeah, you've been following it. I have.
I've been digging deeply.
So you really have a conviction about this.
I have a conviction about this. Yes, it is.
Yeah.
It is. There's just too many things pointing to it. I have a conviction. Yes.
Yeah.
What is your okay? Let's just go along with the possibility that it's for real. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What is your schematic idea of how it operates and how it has been operating? What it did?
Well, first and foremost, I don't think you corrupt powerful people. I think you corrupt people and then give them power.
Mm-hmm.
So if
the activation switch,
if the person is not corruptible, they don't get the part in Hollywood, they don't get the part inside the Beltway, they don't get the key jobs, they don't get anything. And so I think it's an evolution of a person. I think you groom the adults in the sense that you start out by saying, hey, here's a bimbo, why don't you bang her? Next thing you know, it's like, oh, here's a bimbo, she's really sweet, why don't you bang her? Well, by the way, she's 15. And then pretty soon we're doing 13-year-olds, and then pretty soon where the story gets so dark that you go, I pray that that's not true, is this shit that so here's a stat I want to throw out there to your listeners before they hang up. No one can test that something like 1 million kids a year disappear.
No.
Right, the various agencies in charge of tracking them, the CIA, they all have numbers. They're all monstrous numbers. There is no way that anyone has come close to explaining where they're going. There's no description of the end consumer of 1 million kids.
They will just throw out human trafficking, and that's where it stops.
No. That's the vehicle to get them to their destination.
But no, what I mean is, like earlier when you said,
they'll talk about the coyotes. They'll talk about the trafficking.
It's just the statement that ends it. He goes, "Well, fucking human trafficking, dude. Sick fucks. You fucking heard that, brother." And then it's
trafficking.
That's where are they?
And no one says, but by the way,
where the fuck are they?
All,
where are the graves?
They're not They're not going to fucking trailer parks that are ring fenced from elementary schools.
No, the United States. is the
These
biggest
guys don't
consumer.
buy the children.
So what's the end product? Is it the adrenochrome thing we've been hearing about?
I actually think the adrenochrome thing is very real. I watched a guy get interviewed by credible interviewers, guys I recognize, about a startup he has to rejuvenate people by giving them what they were calling young blood. And the interviewers did not ask him, what the fuck do you mean by young blood? You can see they were trying to, and they're working around it. And then apparently that company kind of blew the fuck up. And so he wrapped it up and started a new one that he said was not just young blood. But the fact of the matter is, to find a home for 1 million kids, there's no simple explanation. Now, I think some percentage of them are going to make adrenochrome. And if you read about how that's supposed to work, it doesn't matter if it works. It only matters that people think it does. They're willing to pay top dollar to do it, that they're sick motherfuckers. And so the adrenochrome, they're harvesting from the kids. These are like, this is like, these are...
It's just so funny, Dave, when you say stuff like this, because, I read Bug Jack Barron by Norman Spinrad back in college when I had hair. That's literally
Jack Barron and Spinrad?
Bug Jack Barron by Norman Spinrad is a classic science fiction novel about the corruption of a shock jock who comes across an immortality serum and he's like, and he's being groomed to become part of the thing, and all you have to do is sign your soul away until he finds out that, guess what, they're harvesting the pituitary gland hormones from children.
So the adrenochrome
literally
story,
Norman Spinrad was writing about this shit back in 1969.
Well, because I think it's been around, and that's, by the way, what I think Vigano was talking about, Archbishop Vigano was talking about this week, and the horror of it is that the adrenochrome is supposedly at its peak harvesting moment when the kids are suffering mercilessly.
What's adrenaline?
So in China, supposedly, yeah. It's and so in China, they apparently cook dogs alive, and they cook them in a way where they don't die, because it makes the meat taste better. So this kind of thinking sneaks into a lot of places around the world. It
does exist, and sorry to interrupt, but it's also widely used in poultry industry. Is, I guess, for different animals, it's different, where they don't want the animal scared because it fucks up the meat. So if you do, even if like that, the little, it's you bring up with the little cattle thingy, it's just the right, No Country for Old Men right in the head, because you're not walking up to it with a torch and screaming. It freaks the fuck out.
Right.
So there is logic to fucking up the meat or enhancing the meat.
So then when you dig into this, what you discover is that the Venn diagram of the child trafficking with satanic cults is huge. The two are always proximate to each other. So I have one of the theories I have. I just work on theories is to kind of answer Jim's question. One of the theories is that Hollywood's role is to what I call fictionalizing reality. So the CIA, MK Ultra is a problem. So what do? You create the Bourne Identity. And then all of a sudden you talk about MK Ultra, they go, oh, that's just the Bourne Identity, which means you've anchored to fiction.
And then if you point it out, they go, oh, you're one of those predictive programming freaks.
The skull and bone shit. Okay, make a movie with Matt Damon of The Good Shepherd and fictionalize that. And
Bohemian
so
Grove and Alex yada yada yada. I get over it. Right. So we get but at the same time you then have it's funny this interesting. I had a conversation with James Dellingpole recently on the podcast about this, and
he has a satanic interview I can't get my mitts on, god damn it.
And it's funny, it just how much of this, the predictive programming, revelation of the method, this stuff has permeated now all of the zeitgeist and around this thing and around where we exist in the commentariat, for lack of a better term. And it's really funny how deeply now that's being used to in a lot of ways to discredit everything. And now all artists and all movies and all television, it's all predictive programming, as opposed to realizing that sometimes the artists just get there first. Back in 1969, no, Norman Spinrad was just ahead of the curve. Why is Hollywood obsessed
But
with
I don't
Philip
think
K?
he was. I think it was already happening.
Well, no, I mean, I'm talking
So he
about he
fictionalized
figured out what was
reality
happening in
again.
the same way that
Yes.
Philip K. Dick understood the process of creating the NPCs, like, and being obsessed with simulacra and the military, the rise of the military industrial complex and everything else. These guys saw this stuff and then wrote about it as warnings. And then why is
Smedley
Hollywood so
Butler.
obsessed with Philip K. Dick? Well, because they're trying to undermine that which he actually was warning us about 50 fucking years ago, 60 years ago. And that's the point of a lot of this stuff. And so now it all exists, and now it's we don't even trust the fact that the Matrix was like warning us about, that's the distillation of a lot of this stuff. And now we don't know what to fucking believe, because
so the problem you get into,
you never know what the truth is, because the whole point of the whole point of destroying our ability to assess information today is by destroying our touchstones to the information that came before this. The goal is always to seed in as much mis and disinformation as fucking possible, to then have us distrust our own.
You're fucking up everybody's compass.
And so now
William Happer, the famous Princeton physicist advisor to presidents,
I had him on here 2 weeks ago.
Oh, very good.
Yeah.
He talks about how the numbers from the past are now being modified fairly aggressively to get rid of the embarrassing parts of the climate narrative. And he jokes about it as it's hard to predict the past, which is apparently a famous quote. But he talks about how now all of a sudden things like the medieval warming period is now they're erasing it by readjusting those numbers and things like that. And so I think credentialed experts have been obliterated in the last 5 years. I think they have no credibility whatsoever, whether they're doctors, virologists, climate scientists, you name it. I was on Tom Nelson's podcast, who's a climate change guy. He's been chasing climate change since 2007. And he's interviewed every one of them, anyone can get his mitts on, obviously. And I asked him, I said, do you know a solar physicist who buys the climate narrative? He said, nope, not a one. There's not a solar physicist out there who thinks CO2 is a problem.
Exactly.
They're all saying, look at that fucking big glowing thing in the sky. That's it.
Dr. Patrick Moore, who co-founded Greenpeace.
Exactly.
I've had him on here, man. He has done a 180 so fast
he's so pissed off.
It disconnect your spinal column.
Did he account for how he got flim-flammed?
Well, no, he just starts kind of going over the history of it. He just slowly, it just started to dawn on him that what were, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I want the world to be beautiful for my kids growing up.
But you said he flipped. So,
well, as the years
that happened suddenly.
No. No. When I say he did a 180, I mean from who he was to where he is now. You're like, who the fuck are you? But no, what it dawned on him was it was just a total everything, no matter what it was, the end result, no matter how logical or illogical it was always an increase in government power and an increase in just the revolving door of new contracts for you're building the green shit. Well, hey, Exxon, make some new company, call it, I don't know, fucking, grassy acres, and then they're going to start building geothermal. Who did that, and who got fucked by that? Well, they owned that piece of land, and the government came in and said, because of CO2 emissions, we're now ceasing all of your farming operations, and by the way, we're handing over to this company, which is a shell company for BP, and the entire thing was or it was regulations, taxes, to the modern day of, well, we got to have shut off valves in all cars after 2025. Why? Fuck off. That's why. And all right, well, that's a good argument, but that's what he came to. Is that?
But here's the 180. The 180. Yeah. My 180 took about 3 hours. I had been getting pestered by my brother and some doctor named David Walker, who I have no idea who he is. And they kept saying, how do you know? How do you know? And I kept giving them the standard line. Everyone I know believes the story. The entire scientific community has signed off on this. I don't know how you're going to convince me. And I finally said to one of them, I said, send me some names of people who don't buy this story. And so he did. And I expect him to come from, buttfuck you or something. And they were famous institutions. They were the place you want to get the numbers from. And then I'm thinking, okay, but I'm going to Google these guys. They're going to shoot down some model, and that's being interpreted as therefore there's no climate change. And I go look them all up, and they're not shooting down the model. They're saying this is total crap. That Richard Lindzen, former head of National Academy of Sciences, biggest hoax in history. You got Happer, you got all these guys. They're saying Nobel Prize winning physicists saying this is crap. So I'm sitting down with Konstantin Kyson this last October, who gave the most brilliant speech at the Oxford Union on climate change. You search Konstantin Kyson, K and a K, at the Oxford Union. But I asked him, I said, when you started looking into this, how long did it take to figure out that the story was wrong? He said, a couple hours. That's all it took me, a couple hours. As soon as you discover there's 20 famous scientists who think it's total crap, the very first lie has been obliterated. And that is that there's no credible person who doesn't buy it. That's the lie that leads off the 97%, consensus number. Turns out to be the most bizarre survey of abstracts of papers, which literally 0.4% of the papers actually said it was a crisis, and that got turned into a 97% consensus number with the miracles of statistics. That was Crichton who pointed that out, and so the whole story collapses as soon as you start digging, unless you are a member of the cult.
So why don't these dissenters get any attention?
Why didn't? Well,
so there's too much money. There's too much money.
So let's take what Jim just said though.
30 trillion, 50 trillion. Too much money.
But let's hold on. Let's just look at it's the I always use the analogy of when I got arrested for drinking and the cops basically I was 17. The cops basically told me I can have my parents come pick me up or they can take me to jail. And I was like, I'd rather be shot in the face. But like, so my dad came and picked me up at like 3 a.m. and I tried to convince him that this is the first time I'd ever drank. Right. And right. And oh, Dad, gee shucks. This is the first time. By the way, I had one beer. I know I can't speak right now and I smell like whiskey, but it was some heavy Corona. Yeah. Right. No, it's I got caught. Right. So and then that's kind of what dawned on me over interviewing all the doctors throughout the last 3 years was like, yeah, I don't think this was just and it seems silly now. I'm like, you always know this, the FDA is corrupt. Of course it is. But to the extent that we saw this horse shit pushed, and you start to go, I think this is just the one.
The FDA wasn't always corrupt, though. The FDA got corrupted in a fairly systematic way.
Okay, FDA, CDC, WHO, all of it. We go,
well, yeah.
Oh, wow. Oh, they're all fucked. Then you go, well, they wouldn't. I mean, healthcare, I get the military-industrial complex, but healthcare, and then you go, well, you look back at the food pyramid, right? And all the huge the sugar companies and grain companies were paying off Harvard dietitians to say that fats were bad. And what do you need? 6 to 195 trillion servings of grain every day. Well, who the fuck owns all those General Mills, right? So they're making money off this. And you go, that's the food pyramid. That's the fucking food pyramid. That's like the most, non-nefarious. We're just, hey, that's for the kids. We'll all kill each other for political office. Let's leave the kids out of it. And then you realize, no. So as you start to look at all of this, and this is kind of going to what Jim said, well, how come we don't hear the dissenters? You got to start dipping your toes into the idea of, I don't think the censorship industrial complex is new. I think we uncovered it. I don't think any of this shit's new. Oh, fuck. Oh, reefer madness was because, they did the hemp farm. Oh, shit. And you start to uncover, well, that's why it happens. So how come I've never heard of the vaccine injuries? I'm like, I've done 500 interviews on them. Well, where are you on iTunes? Well, I'm not on iTunes. Where are you YouTube? I'm not there either. What's your Twitter handle? Well, I'm not there either. Oh, and you start to look back and you go, how come we never hear about any of these things? And I think that's why. So that's my rant. Tom?
It really is simply that it's been going on. I mean, it was easier to control information.
Yes.
And therefore the information you got. I mean, we can go back to Ansel Keys and like the lipid hypothesis. And I lumped the lipid hypothesis in with global warming as one of the biggest fucking scams of all time.
Yes.
Because it's destroyed three generations worth of people's health. This idea that saturated fat is bad for you. And that was all done in service of this this ultimate agenda, and this ultimate agenda is fundamentally anti-human at every level. Has been forever and a day. And so, you like, dude, Alex Jones is back on Twitter. I was doing my very best to keep the fucking seat warm until they let him back. Like, that's the way I was looking at it. Because we went down this. I mean, for me, it was the many of the wake up moment. The big wake up moment for me was those moments when we shifted our diet 30 years ago, right? And
we all started getting sick.
And got healthier. And I'm like, okay, well, if they lied about our fucking diet, will they not lie about everything else?
Yes.
This isn't hard. And this natural skepticism, I always looked at the left-right divide as a lie anyway. The whole Republican-Democrat thing. Since I'm 9 years old, I'm like, they're the same fucking party. Dad, why are you Republican?
Okay, so
they're no better than the goddamn Democrats.
Let me stop you on there. They're the same fucking party. That's an excellent example of the thing that allows you to then stop thinking if you're not careful. The uniparty,
completely, Dave.
The uniparty statement is a way of saying, so I have this super liberal friend who we can sit around for hours and talk, and we can overlap about 95% because the evils of the world are evil for both guys. It's where you get into the solutions, and we somehow are able to discuss the solutions and the sources. But what I notice is whenever I would sort of score a point, he always turned it into they're all bad.
Yes.
And I finally started saying, no. This is your fucking team doing this right now. Right? I realized that he was doing that to me. And it wasn't evil. It was the way he thought about it. And at one point I made some reference to something being improbable. I said impossible. And he's going, well, it's not impossible. I go, yeah, it's impossible. And I said, it's a 1 in a gazillion. It's impossible.
Now, when it comes down to this stuff, that whenever you do hit the core of somebody's belief system about how the world operates, or who's the good guys and who's the bad guys and everything else, when they want to, that's when they say, oh, they're all bad. That's no different than calling for the check or asking for the bailiff or whatever. This is that is simply purely, I don't want to talk about this anymore. Let's agree. Yeah, they're all bad.
Or I don't want
that way it absolves them of all responsibility of their fucking.
I don't want to give you a point. I want it to be a tie.
Yes, of course.
I want it to be a tie.
It's absolutely about that, and then and if you're smart, you go, yeah, you're right, and then you leave, and then 4 years later they come back to you and go, you know what? Putin really isn't a bad guy. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Putin really, or whatever the thing is, and you're like, and you go, oh, really? Tell me more.
Well, so
I told you so. You just say that.
I told my class after I threw out a couple of these barbs.
Hold on, Jim's trying to say something. Jim?
Yeah, there are two things that kind of that I stumble over with this. One is that when you introduce that idea or that scenario of the people being corrupted by having a woman brought up to their quarters, and then then it's a 17-year-old girl, and then it's a 15-year-old girl. The thing that I don't understand is you have this whole spectrum of political players. Do none of them have any sense of boundaries whatsoever? I find that hard to believe, that they have no boundaries.
I totally agree with that. The problem is this is where I'm going to go back to the original.
And let me just say the other thing, the part B, which is whenever you're talking about all this current fuckery that's going on, okay, it all basically comes down to the well-educated, thinking, educated class in America. These are the people who are behaving the worst.
They're the hardest. They're the easiest to fake out, according to psychologists.
Well, that appears to be.
The intellects are easiest to fake out because they're the ones who trust their own judgment.
It is the tyranny of midwits. It's the people who are just smart enough. No, truly, it is the tyranny of midwits. Midwits are the people in the 110. I think it's 105 to 110. I think I've heard 110 to 115. IQ people who are smart enough to have success in life, do what needs to be
That
done.
doesn't
all
work
this
for the
stuff,
Ivy League.
And then they can be a successful lawyer or a doctor.
I don't buy the Midwich either. I think
it doesn't
I
work
really
for the
do
Ivy League.
think-
What you've
I
got,
think the high intellects buy
what
shit.
you've got is villainy.
Mhm.
You've got villainy operating here.
Mhm.
It's not just that they're self-credulous. They're
No.
behaving evilly.
Yeah.
Here's how
Because
that
now
happens.
they have to defend. Now they have to defend. When you get into a position where really smart people have to defend their position and they know they're wrong, they will fight it like a dog, dude. I have been fighting this fight amongst. I no longer have any of my old friends,
Me either.
and they're not.
Me
And
either.
none of them
They're
are
all
dumb
gone.
people.
Nope.
None of them are dumb people. They're
But
all
gone.
they're gone, and they'll never come back because they know that at a fundamental level, it's about their conception of who they think they are.
Now, let me
you
get
have
back
touched
to the
on either
Ivy
their
League.
imprinting, their childhood PTSD, or something along those lines,
Yeah.
and you'll never get them.
Let me
Yeah.
get back to the Ivy League for a second, because we've all gone through, we've all watched this spectacle play out with MIT. Well, that's not the Ivy League strictly, but with Harvard and Penn.
the elite
all
universities.
those three college presidents. It seems to me that really what you're seeing, what's really been revealed about all this, is that all of this behavior adds up to nothing more than fucking careerism.
Yes.
That's all it is. That's all this DEI stuff is in the Ivy League. Just careerist bullshit of the baldest sort. And now they have to pretend that that's not what it's about. And they've decided they'd rather be evil in defending it than fess up to what is really going on.
Hmm.
Yes, Jim.
It's a
Agreed
selection
completely.
bias.
Agreed
You don't get up there unless you do that.
Well, what do you
Sociopath-
observe on your own campus? You're in an Ivy League school.
Well, but I'm kind of cloistered. I'm in an office 99.9% of the day. And here's the thing that doesn't make sense with me. So the elite schools are 98+% left of center, right?
Mhm.
I think I was talking to my brother-in-law who's a trustee, and I said, I know 5 or 6 conservatives. There must be more hiding out there. And he said, I don't think so. And he knows this place. But in the chemistry building, it is a meritocracy. It is a free market.
Well, you got to understand what the fuck you're talking about when you're in
Well,
chemistry.
you do, but what's also true is you're constantly competing for students. You're constantly competing for research money. You are cranking on all cylinders. My colleagues work 14-hour days
No,
comfortably.
but wait a minute. That's the same dynamic that's
this is-
going on in the social sciences with these
No, but the
with
social
these fake,
scientists
with
can
these
loaf.
fake majors. They're competing for grants. They're doing the same kind of competition,
Right, but
They're not toying with
we end up
objective reality.
but they don't have to
Mo-
know anything.
most of the I've never seen evidence of politics sneaking into, until recently, politics sneaking into the process. And when someone achieves well, there's another school out there with millions of dollars up their sleeve to come and steal that person from you if they're good.
Mhm.
So-
And what?
so
The
that's where
sciences, you're talking about STEM.
I'm talking about STEM. Now, here's the weird part. My colleagues are still probably 28-2 left of center. Even though we don't recruit based on ideology, we're looking for the person we think is going to be a fucking rock star of a scientist. We are phenomenal at hiring youngsters. After they get tenure within a year or two, most of them get big motherfucking outside offers from other schools. We hire well. But and so the free market's out there too. I mean, we're breaking the university because right now I have a faculty of 30. Right now, 4 are in play from other schools, including Chicago, 2 at Santa Barbara, which turns out there's a reason to be there, and 1 at Stanford. This is a free market.
Don't you think the money for that's going to dry up?
It could. It would probably be better if it did. It used to be, here's the money it will take to move you here. Would you like to be here? Now it's turned into Powerball. Big money. I've seen offers, standard offers up to 15 million of research support.
Hmm.
I've seen There's a guy at Berkeley who is a phenomenal scientist who got offered supposedly 150 million at Scripps, but gets a little vague because they say, we'll give you this institute. That turns out to be the institute. But supposedly, Berkeley, through congressional assistance, countered with 40 million.
That's awesome. If money's going to be thrown around, I'd rather it be at schools.
Right. But the point being is, they're still all left of center. Why is that? I don't have a good answer.
I think
Because it sounds like a right-wing group. Sounds like a right-wing group.
I think it's what you mentioned with the climate change, or we're talking about like with COVID. I think that it's, I mean, it's not an original thought that there's a lot of closeted and quiet people, but it's that, right? It's not wanting to admit you're wrong, right? No one wants to do the great quote by Maya Angelou. I remember reading it. I got way too fucking high my last semester at college, and I had known that I like didn't want to be a doctor, but it had been creeping up on me. And one night I took a couple edibles, and I was just like fucking, you know, on cloud, like just I was on a different planet, like examining every moment of my life. And I was like, deep down, I know I don't want to be a doctor. I know I
had the same epiphany in the ground round sitting there with my girlfriend one Saturday night over Christmas senior year.
Yeah.
But I wasn't stoned or drunk.
I was fucking higher than
round. Now that brings me back. Wow.
As my redneck buddy CJ said, I was fucking higher than giraffe pussy. But I fucking read this quote in it, right? And the quote said, there's no greater agony than bearing an untold story. And that implies admitting you were wrong. So if we come back to that very base idea of the ego, not wanting to be wrong, tribalism, wanting to be in my group and protect my fellow guys. And you know what? Fuck you.
You're not married, right? You're not married?
No. Right?
Get married. You'll get over that being wrong part.
Okay. Or exactly. Okay. But in terms of arguing back and forth with people, right? No one wants to admit they're wrong. That is such a wildly huge thing that clearly goes up to the highest levels of science. So to answer your question, how come they're all left of center? It kind of seems like surface cohesion on like a, you know,
no, these guys really are.
I don't think my point is I don't think until people start making the uncomfortable poke and breaking the surface cohesion, like you said, once you realize a couple of scientists don't believe in the climate change, the whole thing starts to fall apart. I think that's what it takes. Everyone's looking around going, I mean, I don't. And finally someone goes, this kind of seems like horse shit. And then it's a second, and then a third, and then 2 years. It's not that you discover, oh, wait, it was more like 70-30, not 98-10.
What's creeping
Well, first of all, I told my class after I threw out a few barbs, one of the reasons I do this, I told them explicitly after I threw it out, I said, the reason is because the next time you're reading an article about such and such, and you're ready to blow it off, you might actually read it. You might actually slow down and read it. That's why I throw these out. What's creeping in is there's all sorts of piece shit you have to fill out to apply for money now.
Yeah,
we have a real fundamental problem. NSF fellowships are freebies. We love them because I don't have to raise money if they're paid for by the NSF as a fellow. So, now, our NSF, wait a minute. Let me finish this thought. Sure. Our NSF fellows have a terrible attrition rate. They leave. And you go, why? You picked the cream of the crop. Well, not so much anymore. Now it's how many organs did you donate to Guatemalan orphans? Yep. And what we're getting is a person who, by being able to check that box, at some level may be demonstrating that they're not even focused on chemistry.
Yep.
It's theology.
So there's two stories I want to talk about here, or two angles on this. How did we get to the point today, after about 30 years, where they have to work really that the acceptance for ketogenic diets being, you know, therapeutic and all the rest of it? That's because it was orthodoxy that it was the high carb, low fat diet was orthodoxy back in the 90s.
Right.
When we were, because having been in this area for 30 years, one of the things that was brought up really early on was it's going to take time to change the public opinion because there's no quote unquote peer-reviewed research and studies being done because no money was being allocated to this back then. And then once the breakthrough started with the early stuff with like the Atkins diet and whatnot, then the research started to come. And then once the research started to show up, then it became a conversation that we could actually start to have. Because again, we're getting back into the tyranny of, you know, the tyranny of scientism or whatever you want to call it. So you have that. So that's why it's taken this long. When I was at when I was at UF and I worked in soil and water science, there's no quote unquote STEM field science, soil and water science, right? That bridges this perfect, like Dave's in organic chemistry. I was at the soil and water science, which is all environmental stuff. I can tell you back then that every fucking grant, no matter what it was, you applied for, everything had to, if you wanted to get the money,
Save
you
the
had
whales.
to tie it some way to climate change. And that way you would get the money.
Mhm.
It didn't matter if you were studying, you know, like the arsenic in the water column of, you know, the travel of arsenic down a water column, you know, leaching out of pressure treated poles. Didn't matter.
Right.
You had to tie it to, you wanted to discuss the mating rituals of raccoons. You tied it to climate science, which is, by the way, how they manufactured the 97% number.
Consensus. Yeah.
Oh.
But it's even worse than that.
By having all of the grants go through that process, and then you had to and they were in fact contractually then bound to then write some stupid one graph conclusion tying it to climate science in the papers, and therefore then they could, you know, run the big data set the meta analysis, which is all they did, of all the papers to come up with the 97% number.
But it was also
when I tell people that
really shitty analysis, dude.
Oh, absolutely.
Not just a
in every
pre-selected
fucking
group.
way. But I've been pounding this point home to friends of mine for 20 years. Been saying this shit. I'm like, by the way, that number is bullshit. I said, because here I am. I'm in science. I'm in soil and water science. I have this on good authority from everybody at the local university. Like, guys, this is how the process works. That's where that number comes from. And they're like, no, it can't be that. I'm like, yes, that's the way it works.
You lose your
I have it
voice
directly
if you
from
don't.
multiple fucking professors and the dean of the goddamn
Guaranteed.
department.
Guaranteed. You lose your voice if you don't have a program. And you won't have a program if you don't follow the narrative. And so I've asked colleagues who believe in climate change. They said, if I ever came up with a grant proposal that looked like it was going to upend the story, I'd never get funded, right? They go, yeah. Even the guys who believe in the story.
Exactly.
So the science is gone. The other thing is, if you read the IPCC, which is the Bible of climate change, it's where they, every 5 years, I think it is, they compile everything they know. If you actually read the scientific part, the scientists are more honest than we're told. They will say things like, for example, what's the evidence? They will actually say in the IPCC report that the evidence that severe weather events are increasing is very low. There is no evidence of increasing severe weather reports. There's none whatsoever. None. Zero. None.
And what's interesting, Dave, you go take it one step
I'm
further.
listening. I just have to get coffee.
Every one of these, the IPCC, I'm glad you brought this up, because one of the interesting part about going back to solar physics, right? Ben Davidson over at Suspicious Observers makes this point all the time, that the way they calculate the heat to justify all of this is based on, you know, binning of the heat that's introduced in the system, in the Earth system, based on, you know, what is total solar irradiance and what isn't. And they describe, and they for years excluded the contribution from the solar wind on purpose, because then that heat would then be added to the side of the ledger of has to come from man-made sources.
Yeah, they left out tornadoes.
So what's interesting is that as the IPCC has gone on, the fucking scientists have come back and go, you know what? No, we have to add in some of this solar particle physics contribution, and that's changing all the numbers. And so even the IPCC is slowly but surely having to tell
the
more of the story.
IPCC is broken into two parts. There's the scientific part and there's the political part. And the political part is writing about what appears to be a completely different subject.
Right.
So the political part is just politics. That's all it is.
Agreed.
And so the scientists are actually embedding key things. And by the way, a number of the serious detractors of the narrative are authors of the IPCC report.
Yes.
Right.
I know.
So
I know, but it doesn't matter because we have a political industrial complex.
Here's a great this year the cult shat their underwear when it turns out that the ice at the Antarctic, which had been not changing at all of a sudden dropped And you can see they show these plots of the ice over the year, and it's like 40 years of the ice. And then all of a sudden this year, it just took a nosedive. And they go, oh, they're fucking Lord, we're screwed, right? And it turns out that someone came along and said, by the way, we had severe southerly winds. The ice piled up, so it actually got thicker. And they forgot to measure that part. Now, here's the funny part. It was 6 standard deviations off. Now, when something's 6 standard deviations off, it's time to get a new model. There's something wrong, right? So I, writing about it, turned to Fat Tony. Any of you guys know who Fat Tony is? Fat Tony is Nassim Taleb's character, where Fat Tony gets asked, okay, Tony, I have a coin here. It's a legitimate coin. I flip it 30 times, which turns out to be 1 in a billion. Because 6 standard deviations is 1 in a billion. I flip it 30 times, comes up heads. What are the odds that it comes up tails on the 31st flip? And Tony says 0. And then he says, nope, it's 50-50. And Tony says, no, it's 0. And he says, why do you say that? And he said, because the coin's rigged. And he said, no, I told you it's a legitimate coin. He said, you lied. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, problem solved. So somebody lied. So here's the funny thing. So if you look at the same group again, it's like this swath of the ice going up and then back down, and then one just diving low. But if you look at another year and you don't even know which year, in the month of November, it dropped down 6 standard deviations in 1 month. And I go, what are the odds that the ice could drop 6 standard deviations and then recover in a month? And the answer is 1/1 Google. And so and then you Google this plot, which is this is data that's all over the internet now. But you Google it and you find all these plots that are obviously the same data, but the fine structure of the wiggles is different. It's not the same data. You see it's jagged here, but not in this plot, but it's different over there. And by the way, a couple of them now have the missing 6 sigma drop in November. You know what I'm going? This is not how data is supposed to work, guys. That was raw data you showed us.
I do that with Rumble all the time. I look at views, and you can put it in days or you can put it in months, and it depends.
So here's
on
the other
what
discouraging
reality
thing.
I want.
I'm in writing
Hold on a
mode.
second, Dave. So is all this part of the murmuration of
Yes.
people who are not coordinated, but they seem to the glue that seems to hold them together is the pursuit of grant money.
Right. Well, the glue that's right. Self-interest. The glue that holds them together is self-interest. Fortunately, most science is not political. Most science. But it's sort of like a Supreme Court decision. I was talking to a Supreme Court scholar, and he said, I mentioned the 5-4 votes all the time. He said, no. You're reading about the 5-4 votes. What you're missing are all the 9-0 votes that they do. Right? So we keep seeing 5-4 because those are contentious ones. So we're seeing the collapse of science in those relatively few areas where the collapse is causing trouble. Now, on the other hand, I've read a lot of books on anthropology, and boy, do those guys go batshit when something gets challenged. It's considered accepted lore. So you say, oh, I found this must be, and they go, oh, no, you're so fucked up. There's no way that couldn't be a hominid, blah, blah, blah. They attack like dogs. The Leakey family was terrible at that. So scientists do dig in and get super boneheaded sometimes.
And bringing back Ansel Keys and diet just to like it's the same thing. It's because it's because human chemistry and human biology is so fungible in terms of what the data actually means, because because it's so difficult to even do good research, right?
Especially on complex subjects.
Exactly. And there's so many variables that bear that at some point, you can just make it, you can always argue, you can always attack anybody's conclusions about anything. And then, and for example, and Keys was such a fucking asshole. I mean, you talk about the Leakey Foundation, Keys himself was a fucking attack dog that he just browbeat and bullied everybody into submission, along with, selecting his data sets and throwing data out and all the rest of it in order to create the fucking curve that created the lipid hypothesis in the first place. He threw out 2/3 of his fucking data.
Right.
His country data. Like that was the whole thing was based on. He took 7 countries, and he had 22 or 23, but he threw those out because they didn't fit the model, because it was clearly an operation at some level.
Well, psychology is going through a crisis. I'm not sure. Maybe they've gone through it. Maybe they don't care. But someone figured out, and I think Kahneman certainly played a role, that the stats were just not good enough, that they were using inadequate sample size and stuff like that. So what you'd show is you would do some study in psychology, and you would say that, you'd say that such and such is true. And then they'd find out, yes, provided that you're willing to use just Stanford grad students as your sample size. If you go over to Europe, you get a different answer. And so there's that. And then, of course, there's problems like we had a guy who was writing all sorts of influential papers on nutrition, where he said, if you use a smaller plate, you'll eat less. And you go, of course. Well, it turns out he faked it. He completely faked it. And there's this phenomenon. There's a phenomenon. Just because something makes sense doesn't mean it's true. That's key. That's
fuck off. That's
I'm in a very complicated field of chemistry. I was told no one could figure it out. I was told, there's all sorts of things I was told when I was young, and I kind of fairly seriously dominate the field. And there, what I have found is that nothing that we were told, including Nobel Prize winning work, holds up to scrutiny. Nothing. So there's these different size rings that bind metal ions, and it won a Nobel Prize. Got a 2-pod. There's depending on the number of oxygens, you bind different metal ions. It turns out they're called, for you, Tom, they're called crown ethers, right?
I know exactly what they are. I was about to say, you're talking about crown ethers, right, Dave?
So that's right. So what we did is we went and studied the crown ethers. The idea that this one binds lithium, this one binds sodium, this one binds potassium, right? Because they're different size. It turns out we studied them, and two things were wrong with that story, Tom. You're going to love this. First of all, they all bind identically.
No shit.
Identically. And they suck. They suck. And I'm going, holy shit, what's that fucking Nobel Prize all about, right? And so we do shit like this all the time. What you find is...
So, Dave, what you're saying is that the Grignard reaction is that the whole Grignard reaction sequence is like bullshit.
Well, they don't understand it at all.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry for geeking out here with Dave. Like I'm having like flashbacks to second semester organic chemistry and whatnot. But sorry.
And then people cite Occam's razor, and they cite it wrong, and they say the simplest answer is probably right. Anyone who's ever studied something complicated knows that that's always wrong. That's always wrong. There is no example where the simplest answer, except one day we did a study where there was a simple answer from 1933, and then it got way more sophisticated. The explanations got really elaborate, and we studied it. We go, that douchebag at 33 nailed it, you assholes. It was that simple.
Are you talking about Hitler?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah. Except he was called a different name, and he looked different.
Well, and this is one of the things I was thinking about this morning is, Dave, when you and I were on with Rudy on Palisades Gold Radio, and we were talking about how gray-pilled, black-pilled, and whatnot we are about the economy, right? We were talking about the economy and all this stuff on that show, and I was thinking about it this morning. I was doing my podcast for my patrons, and I said, Dave and I, when you guys go to watch this, Dave and I like have some sincere like disagreement about things. I'm like, by the way, disagreement is great. I love Dave because he and I don't necessarily have to agree on anything. That's why I love chatting with him. And but what's interesting is what popped into my head was while I was doing this rant was that it's like, guys, you have to realize that not just the disagreement is good, but that the more you study at a certain point, I remember taking general chemistry and thinking to myself, oh shit, I know everything now. Right. And the reason I thought that was because the way general chemistry was taught at UF, it was taught as an overview course of everything. And then the rest of my degree was spent explaining why general chemistry worked. This is the way I've described
I have a similar maxim. I say that we take freshman chemistry when we're 18. We spend the rest of our careers trying to understand it.
Exactly. So the point I was making, the broader point I was making from patrons this morning was that what's important here is it's the nuance. And this gets back to everything we've talked about in all these other idioms in this podcast, which is that once the uniparty, that shuts off all debate. All these ideas that we've just thrown out there. we have to, when we become really, when we want to become good at a particular thing, what I was saying this morning was global macro. Well, in order to become really good at as a global macro commentator, right, you have to become really good at politics, because global macro,
that is global
about
macro
politics. It's not
Right.
about economics. And so when people ask me, like, dude, how do you learn all this shit, or why did you learn all this shit? It's like, because in order to become a good global macro commentator and then give good people good information about what to do from a strategic investing perspective, I had to then shift into becoming an excellent political analyst. Okay, if I wanted to just know whether or not General Mills was going to have a good, next couple of quarters and whatnot, I can do a discounted cash flow and do.
But that's micro. But that's essentially micro. Right.
That's not what I do. Right. So it's about the nuance, about all of these issues, about learning the nuance and in order to try and tease out the truth. The problem, of course, is then you have to explain that to people, and people don't have the time to understand the nuance. And so that's
by the way, you can't Google tricky subjects anymore.
No, not at all. Are you kidding?
So as I'm writing this fall, I'm trying to check up on shit, and I go, I can't find what I know is there. It is now so buried in the fact chokers. If you find a topic where there's a ton of fact checkers, they're covered a big lie. They are covering. There's things that fact checkers shouldn't give a shit about. You say, oh yeah, there's little green Martians living in Sheboygan. They're not going to fact check that.
Dude, I went.
But if you say the Lahaina fires were started by a directed energy weapon, they're going to fact check the shit out of that thing.
Okay, ready? The other day I was working on a post, and I said, I want to make sure that I was trying to check up on. I used to be able to like find stuff out about Russian pipeline projects or this or that or anything else.
Good luck.
Easily, right? So I wanted to know whether or not Transneft was actually starting to build a second train of a second spur of the Espo pipeline going down to Kamchatka. Because I heard about it about a year and a half ago that they'll probably double they're going to probably double this, because it makes sense that they would double it because it's now running at capacity now, right? At the beginning of the war, I knew that they would. The Russians would start pumping more oil out to Kamchatka, because, oil can flow east just as well as it flows west, right? And when I did a search across 4 different search engines, I kept coming up with the same 5 websites over and over and over again about this. The BBC, New York Times, Washington Post, blah, 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 blah. I could not find anything. I had to go to Yandex. And even at Yandex, I couldn't get anything out of Yandex, because even after a fucking
wait, let me straighten that out. Yandex, Yanex. Just so if people want to go there, I think it does have a D.
Oh no, Yandex. I thought it does have a D.
Is that the Ruski Google?
Yeah, that's the Russian one, Yandex.
I don't think.
Yeah. So,
I'm going to fact check you, USOB.
It got even worse. I couldn't get the Yandex even properly, even through a fucking VPN.
Well, so I did a search.
Basic information out of Transneft as to whether or not they're thinking about building another fucking pipeline. And this is a very specialized thing that should be easy to tease out, with the right search engine. So
you're right. It is Yandex. So here's what I did at Yandex. This is just a total tangent. Tom Hanks was accused of taking a photograph of weird shit. He does that. He admits it. I've seen him be interviewed. Like a glove. Where's the other glove? He's quirky. One of them had something that said something like USA SRC or SRC USA or something like that. And they said, you won't find this on Google, you won't find it on Brave, but if you go to Yandex, you'll find it. It's a pedophile network. And I had to look. And there it was. Now, I'm probably on some fucking list.
What did that say about Tom Hanks to you?
Well, so Tom Hanks is in the sights of the pedophile hunters in a very big way. You would never know that. Tom Hanks had to shut
huge
down
during the pandemic, during 2020.
Huge. He draws fire. He is right up there with Bill Cosby or something, right? No, he's drawing big fire.
Dave,
is it true? I don't know.
You completely. I was gonna try to tie this all back into child trafficking. Back to Jim's question, but you just did. So I mean, goddamn, sir. Good.
You wouldn't believe the guys who have been accused of trafficking. Now, here's what's interesting.
Presidents and senators. I don't know.
Presidents, senators, CEOs.
Johnny
Supreme
Gosh, who
Court
took Johnny,
justices.
the little paper boy that
Who
went
took Johnny
missing,
Gosh? Who took
allegedly
Johnny?
went
You're a
allegedly
sick
was
fuck.
with.
You are a sick fuck to know
No,
Johnny Gosh.
I listened to
I
Tim
have
Dillon.
to. I have to pull a Carrigan and go pee in the middle of the cast. I'll be back in a
Go
couple
pee, dude.
minutes.
You're good. Yeah, no,
It's
no.
okay.
Tim Dillon always talks
So
about him. Really.
who are the other celebrities who are involved in this? I'm sorry, I'm so ignorant about it, but I haven't been paying attention.
I'm writing about it in January. I'm going to say everything I got, so
All the
that'll help.
conspiracies say Oprah, like
Yep.
read that she has a school in Africa or some shit, and all those girls, like a wildly
Like
disproportionate number.
there's a
go
guy.
missing.
There's a guy named Cappy who called out Tom Hanks.
Cappy.
Ended up Cappy.
Ended up
somehow
dead. Yeah, KPPY.
Ended up throwing himself off a bridge within a week or two.
Yeah, and he was he was writing in his journal and telling people I had on
Anthony Bourdain and Chris Cornell were putting together a documentary on the subject. They're both dead now.
I don't know if that one's proven.
Obama.
I don't know if that one's
right.
I don't know if that one's proven. So if you're trying to get to it,
Well,
don't parrot that one because it might make you look
No,
uncredible.
when
I'm
I
just saying.
write about it, I say, look,
Okay.
there's a 90-10 rule here. 90% chance I'm 10% right, and 10% chance I'm 90% right.
Yeah.
So
and
so
if
it's
1%
somewhere
of
in
this
between.
shit's real, it's fucking insane.
So who else?
But
Barack Obama, you said?
George H.W. Bush, Ronald Reagan, apparently that's where
Obama's
Johnny Gosh went.
Obama's all over the Pizzagate story. So if the
He's all over the
Pizzagate
hot
story is
dogs, the
real,
walnut sauce.
yeah.
Whoa! And remember those emails that came out in like 2017 or 2018? The Hillary Clinton and like Huma Abedin like cables.
Oh yeah.
And they were talking about going to the fundraiser and hey, these kids at ages 6, 8, and 10 will be in that hot tub. And I know how much you like kids in the hot tub. Like, what the fuck is that?
For who likes kids in the hot tub?
It was cables between high-level donors for Clinton and Huma. It was like 2017, 2018. And then people kept going and they're like, it can't get worse. And it got into spirit cooking, which is mixing semen, blood, and breast milk.
Shit.
Yeah, then they put it on their left hand, and there's pictures of John Podesta, who he and his brother were the largest lobbyists in D.C., and they have a statue of the Arch of Hysteria in their mansion, which is a famous picture taken by Jeffrey Dahmer after he cut the fucking head off of one of his victims and made it stand. It looks like some Exorcist shit, and they have a gold statue
are
in their
unambiguously fucked up. Unambiguously fucked up. The Podestas are beyond comprehension fucked up.
So what's keeping this thing out of the public domain and the legal domain?
It's all there. Oh, the legal domain
and a
because
fat
the
rich
entire
diet.
system is crooked.
A censorship industrial complex. Self amalgamating shit. What's their mutual interest?
There was a Globe article. There was a Globe article that said three guys got whacked as Obama went for the Senate for the first time. 3 guys who became inconvenient. There's Obama's. I think it was Obama's. His White House counsel ended up getting whacked. There's just so what happens is what you discuss. Kevin Spacey got accused of sexually assaulting boys.
Mm-hmm.
He also
and he got sued by he got sued by 4 people. 3 died and 1 said, "I'm good. I'm out of here."
Yeah, 1 said, "You know what? I was young and whatever. Let's move on.
Whatever. Never mind me."
What do you make of the Obama chef death story?
That's
Obama supposedly has been known to be gay for many, many years.
Yeah, I saw that interview with the guy.
Why wouldn't he just come out and say that's
no? But there's a lot of people.
Well,
there's a lot of people.
Then it might be gay for kids,
and
you're like,
I don't give a shit. But then when you start pulling on that thread, it gets weirder and weirder and weirder, and you just don't know where you've left the surface of the planet when you're reading it, because you're not reading it in CNN, you're not reading it in Time Magazine, you're not reading it in places which we feel better about, even though we know they lie. We know
it's horse shit, yeah. But
why are they protecting him?
Because they're owned by the CIA.
Well,
no, the CIA can buy every single news agency in the world.
Well, CNN's owned by Time Warner.
Budget.
CNN's owned by Time Warner, which was
so. What do you make of the chef?
Presidential donor.
The death of the chef in Martha's.
It's good we have Jim here that is calling Dave and I out on Pizzagate.
I'm not calling you out.
I'm not being sarcastic. No, you're being. No, I'm not being sarcastic.
There's 2 theories.
It's
There's
good
2
friction.
theories. One is that there was some accident. It was Obama's Chappaquiddick moment, and there's a bunch of police reports with redactions and shit. And it's pretty clear that Obama and this guy were having fun in the middle of the night on their paddle boards and something went bad. Now, the alternative is that someone whacked the guy for some reason, but it would seem to me that would not be with Obama's authorization, because he sure as fuck wouldn't be near it if they did.
Is it a man? You get.
And so-
I thought it was. I'll be honest with you, Dave. I thought it was an attack on Obama himself,
I was about
Could
to
be,
say,
could
was it like
be,
a
could
Russian
be.
shot across the
and
bow?
that they went after Obama because he.
I think there's Secret Service agents who had to get involved in shit. And
And
so something went wrong. There's photos of, which could be Photoshopped, of Obama showing up about, a handful of days later on the golf course with taped fingers
Mhm.
and a shiner.
Yeah.
So something went bad.
Mm.
And now they can be fake, but people said, oh yeah, he tapes his fingers for golf. I play golf. Tape does not help your golf game at all. At all. That would be like putting a sock in your ear to go to a concert. No, you feel the club with your fingers. You don't tape them.
Dave, are you getting any closer to the center of things than Whitney Webb did in her book,
No,
One
Whitney,
Nation Under
Whitney's so
Black Guns?
far, she's so far ahead of everyone.
And she won't
she-
fucking
she
respond to my
has-
emails.
Yeah, I know. You want me to reach out to her?
Could you please?
I can.
Yeah, no, legitimate. Yeah,
But you got to behave yourself.
I could button it up. I can do it.
Okay,
I come
just
on with
checking.
y'all, and you guys are the
I know,
hooker.
I know,
You guys are
I
the
know. We
hooker
set
that
a
my
low
wife
bar.
and kids don't
Well,
know.
this is like a
about.
locker room,
Hey, no, you guys are the
Yeah.
hooker my wife and kids don't know about. I come in here, I shut the door, and I beat the shit out of you.
Whitney
all right,
is.
you're not to take home to mom and dad.
Oh, so what you're saying is that we
Whitney
can't pass
has a
the
gift.
hooker live boy test. Got it. Okay.
You guys are
Whitney-
my cook. You guys are
Sorry,
my
go ahead.
Obama
Go ahead,
cook.
Dave. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Whitney has a gift. What Whitney does not do, and I don't think she even necessarily tries to, she does not formulate the big picture. What she is a puzzle piece assembler. She says A is tight with B and B is tight with C, and she makes these connections. What she doesn't do is make these big sweeping statements that people would like.
That's
Her
almost good, though.
her 2-volume series I went through, and it was absolutely brutal. And as Rudy said in a podcast before, not this week, but in another one, he said it's a reference book. You don't read it left or right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you've got to really want to read it. The first
So
volume
brutal
is
to
really
read
hard.
is what you mean. Brutal
Yes.
to read, not
Brutal
to
necessarily
read.
because of the content.
So the first volume are things you don't know anything about because it's
Yeah.
first half 20th century.
1920s gamblers and gangsters.
But so what I did while I was reading the first half, I just kept translating it to a bank CEO. I just converted it to, okay, a bank CEO did this and a politician did that. So I had to translate it down to, I don't care about the guy's name and what company and whatever.
Yeah.
The second one gets more interesting because it starts hitting scandals and stuff that we lived with when we were younger. And so
So
you
if
start
she's
recognizing names.
If she's just piling up the connections and the names and dates,
Oh, she's archiving.
You're more of a big picture guy. What's the big picture that you're inferring from all of that that ant heap of data?
Well, her message is that the whole world is this big connected mess, right?
What's
And
your influence?
Well, that's my take.
I can give it a shot. I can give it a shot.
Go for it.
It's the efficiency of weapons. World War I, the number of people you throw at people, you just throw mountains of people until they get torn up. You get horses, they get mowed down until you finally get vehicles. Go to World War II, plane technology is a little more matured, a little more developed, but at the end of it, we have rockets, right? Now you have a rocket which could go Mach 3, Mach 4, Mach 5, put a warhead on it. You don't even need a pilot. You just shoot it right into London. That's why we brought them all back. We, amongst other things, but we wanted the rocket.
I have to answer the phone. I'm getting
Yeah, go for
multiple calls from.
Yeah, go for it. Yes, the CIA. And then put an A-bomb on top of it. Well, why do we want the rockets that badly? Is we want the A-bomb on top of it. We married the two, right? Again, it's force projection. You're seeing these over decades. You're seeing the ability to transfer larger and larger amounts of power. Dave, I'm going to mute you so you don't fucking.
Who's $100 bill?
You have no. All right. Right. You want force projection. smaller and smaller vehicles with less and less points of failure, less and less people involved with greater and greater payloads. Curtis LeMay, right? The guy who fucking Secretary of the Air Force under Kennedy, the cigar chomping guy, right?
The bombing of
Tokyo. Bombs away LeMay, yeah, right. If we had lost the war, I would have been tried as a war criminal. He's a fucking total badass. But he would always say, no matter what, no matter how big the bombing fleet was, no matter how it didn't matter how intense the defenses were, you were always going to get at least one through. And if one of those people has an A bomb instead of a dumb bomb, it's that much more powerful. So if you can put it on a missile, is my point, you only need one missile to get through. So you're going on and on and on. And then tertia optio, right? The third one, we have open diplomacy, that's number one. You have all out war, that's number two. Tertia optio, it started under Eisenhower, it's the hidden hand, it's the CIA assassins. Again, we don't need to go fuck shit up. We don't need to go to just listen. We don't need to go to a war. If we just go knock off one guy here, or we buy off these politicians here, and keep communism out of Greece or some shit.
Well, how does this fit with the pedo stuff?
As you go forward more and more, it is a continual whittling of power into smaller and smaller points, to the point where you no longer need a marching army to go overthrow a nation, or to
you just call the guy and say, we got videos of you getting
just go, hey man, remember that 8-year-old you fucked and then cut her throat? Yeah, no, I'd really like it if Hamas didn't attack Israel this week. Yeah, all right.
So
that's the logic
Jim,
behind it. I'm not saying
it's
real. I'm saying that's the logic. Oh fuck! What are you? That's so rude of you, Jim.
Well, I'm still on the.
I just finished this argument. I just finished this argument.
No, just tell.
You're muted. Fuck you. Thank you for listening, Tom. So rude. You're just explained.
You're welcome, Tom.
I think that's a reasonable argument. It's more and more efficient. Less weapons, less footprint. So finally, you just call up another fucking prime minister and
unmute him now.
Unmute
him now.
Yeah, I got to ask him on mute. It's less and less people involved, and a greater and greater ability to project power. It's what it is.
But what Jim is groping for, which I totally understand, is that there's a level of depravity that seems to be so broadly based and so dark.
That too, it's not just a weapon. There is a Venn diagram.
No,
They're
but
also
it's
fucked beyond.
Incomprehensible to a mentally healthy person.
It's what people said. You cannot fathom the depths of the. Yeah.
There's another level to it, though, for me, which is that when you introduce enough disorder, degeneracy, and depravity into a system, the system can't really bear it anymore.
That's right. That's right.
Excellent.
I agree.
Jim, yes.
And that might be why
something's got to break.
I mean,
it's end of Empire.
Why was Sound of Freedom a huge movie this summer? That has entered the Overton window.
Sound of Freedom I have issues with. Sound of Freedom.
I never saw it, but the point is the very idea that was a blockbuster, good or bad, misinfo, whatever. The very fact that we're talking about kids in shipping containers is a wild shift in the Overton window.
Well, except for the fact that was out there, and the Sound of Freedom stopped short of all the important issues.
But how many unplugged boomers and like my extended family and how many people we know because we're all fucked up. We research this shit. How many people who had never once looked up from their phone went like, what's that about? That got a lot of dipshits to at least half take their head out of the sand.
Yeah, I mean, stuff like that, stuff like Sound of Freedom and other pieces are designed to move the center.
Yeah,
the people within the first half standard deviation.
Yeah,
of the situation, and God's bless him for trying and getting it through and yada.
Yeah.
So, and that's the starting point, and that's where people, and look, it's the process of. You got to take people through this in stages. Otherwise, you get them. Once they start down the Kubler-Ross 5 stages of grief on this stuff about the world that they thought they lived in and the world that they do live in, you have to take them through to that mimetic collapse process.
Yeah.
But it's also a limited hangout to the extent that what people were not the Sound of Freedom, to the extent they showed recipients of the children, which was very Spartan. They were your typical guy with a van who was a perv who just was a bad dude. Mm-hmm. And they stopped short. By the way, there was also a lot of fiction in it. There was some serious bullshit in it. And so I'm not convinced it wasn't in some ways sort of like starting a fire to stop a forest fire.
You're not wrong, but it's one of the things where with most topics we have limited hangouts and you want to you add a little bit here to sway here, but there are some things that they just don't want fucking addressed at all. They don't want misinfo, they don't want to poison the well. They don't want you to know the well exists. And I think this comes back to Jim's point is I think the system's so big. Maybe it's just the internet learning about fucking yet again General Mills and Harvard and sugar and the food pyramid. Like it might just be that the system's getting so big that maybe they're looking at it and they're going, let's fucking try to get a foot out in front of this and make a movie and then say it's just, the creepy guy down the road. But I'd rather none of this shit have ever happened. But this is probably some talk that went on at like a Bilderberg meeting. Like, I would prefer this wasn't here, Bill, but this is where we are. They're getting on to us that we eat kids or something, right? So they're like, let's throw this out there.
And that's why, that's why, there's a fundamental difference between, say, for example, Sound of Freedom and Eyes Wide Shut.
Yeah.
Because Kubrick made Eyes Wide Shut because he had a deal with Warner Brothers where nobody at Warner Brothers knew anything about what he was doing because he had an ironclad contract with Warner Brothers that he could make his movies effectively
uncensored,
in secret.
Laissez-faire.
And then awesome. All that, and then they didn't, and then Warner Brothers didn't see the movie until Kubrick showed it to them. So he then screens Eyes Wide Shut, and 4 days later he has a goddamn heart attack. They recut the movie and they put the movie out.
That's man. Was that his fucking like lifelong goal? Like, I'm gonna make movies so good that eventually people are just gonna leave me alone. And then
that's exactly what he did.
And then
that's the deal he got after Dr. Strangelove.
Yeah,
he had that deal either after Dr. Strangelove or 2001, and he was able to make whatever fucking movie he wanted. And every movie he made after that, from that point forward, was literally, oh, by the way, they're evil fucking people in the world, banging fucking children and trying to destroy the world.
Yeah.
Go watch every one of his fucking movies going back to Lolita. He chose his subject matter on purpose. He warned us about the technocracy in 2001. He warned us about the best people. He turned The Shining into a metaphor of how you corrupt normal people. Go watch The Shining from the Dave Collum perspective of how you corrupt normal people.
Well, hey,
and you won't be able to watch The Shining ever again as anything other than, oh, by the way, yeah, they're really fucking evil, and they're and in the Shining, of course, they're ghosts corrupting Jack, but the process of corruption and all the weird imagery in The Shining is all in service of that.
Are these guys beginning to lose now, or what? What's your estimation of that?
My buddy Drew always has a great line, and he goes, it might not end well, but what they are doing is mag dumping. They're just fucking, when you play video games, your primary rifle's out, you throw it, you pick out the pistol, and you're just shooting at the guy. You don't know if the last bullet's going to finally take him down, and the big guy would be us, the masses. But they're mag dumping. Fucking COVID, fucking Trump off the ballot, UFOs, fucking blow up Nord Stream. They're fucking pulling out, Middle East. Remember that whole shit that we just
That's
finished?
what they're doing now. They're and knowing that they're at that moment where they're just throwing everything at us.
Well, to me,
telling you that they're worried.
To me, they're like the guys who have hijacked a furniture truck and they're throwing the chairs out the back of the truck at the people pursuing them.
I saw another great line. Somebody said, something is ending. Whether or not we're going somewhere good or bad, we don't know. But something's very clearly ending.
What if it's just hyper normalization in play?
Which in that case, it's over, and there's already been a coup, and we're just signing our death warrant by doing these podcasts.
Too many things are breaking, and I think also, there's so many things we don't take into account. One of them is that I'm pretty sure that there's a large coterie of males out there who are completely sick and tired of the pussification of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And are, if they're not already in revolt, they're going to be in serious revolt soon.
Oh yeah. Look at the guys I interviewed. Those guys, there's a reason years ago they all fucking to a T. They've all left cities and they're all out in the middle of nowhere with really long lines of fire, and what looks like just a home, you realize you're like, oh, that's got water, that's got shelter. You can't attack it from an angle. Oh, the sun rises behind them. I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
and
but this
look, they're
goes
all
beyond survivalists. This
no, no,
is
no. Well, no, no.
I'm
These are
talking
all
about across a broad spectrum of
no.
our
I'm with you.
country.
I'm with you. But I'm looking at like the most hypermasculine. Not only that, they all write extensive books about how to train normies like us. They're
Mhm,
they're loading the guns. It's
mhm,
good or bad. Yeah, no, it's something's ending.
mhm.
I don't know where it's going, but something's ending.
Well,
I'm not.
I got the
I'm not.
feeling the last few days that we're moving into a period of time where we're going to see some serious street fighting in Europe, in the European cities.
Yeah. Again, yeah, we're something's happening, right? Where it's what's the chemistry, guys? What's the heat of fucking vaporization where you're
No, it's
adding
the activation energy.
yeah, you're adding it, and then it flatlines and nothing happens.
It's activation energy.
And then all of a sudden it bubbles. It's yeah,
It's like
bubbling.
it's a process of I mean, or you can look at it as heat of vaporization, where you're approaching boiling, you're at the boiling temperature, but you still have to add a little bit more energy in the system to get the thing to fucking boil.
Yeah.
Or it's the activation energy in order to get, like, you need a lot of activation energy to get thermite to go, right? Because there's a huge activation barrier to reorganize this. And this is an interesting metaphor. I use this one all the time. It's that you add enthalpy, you add heat into the system because you're trying to drive an entropic reaction. And entropic reactions require a real massive reorganization of the atoms and the bonds and everything else. And it usually takes a lot of energy to get it started. And then once it starts, that entropic reaction is usually then becomes self-sustaining because it releases so much energy that it spirals out of control quickly. This is how thermite.
Yeah.
This is like the thermite reaction is a perfect example of this. And yes, we're getting close to that point. And then once it goes, it's going to be an uncontrollable thing until all the reactants are burned up, and we have a whole bunch of molten iron now, like destroying shit everywhere, right? And cutting through vault doors or whatever the hell it is you use thermite for. This is a good way. It's a good metaphor for this. Correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, but this is my
okay.
Yeah,
But it's true for anything. It's like lighting a fire in your fireplace.
right.
You got to add some heat to get started. Then it becomes self-perpetuating.
The SR-71 Blackbird had like 3 different engines to get started. It had they had something called a start cart, and it used like boron or some shit, and like 2 Buick engines, which started something else, some other flame, and then that flame went and lit the JP-12 rocket field. There's like a series of shit. It's like, why are they doing all that?
is an amazing piece of engineering because the whole thing shudders and doesn't like none of it like the airframe itself doesn't tighten up until it gets to a certain speed and like all sorts of shit. And here's the best part about that fucking thing: they designed it with slide rules.
Yeah.
By the way, physics just works, dudes.
Yeah. Well, but there is some more symbolism to this, though, right? It's like, no, a lot of activation energy, but if you can get it going, you have this fucking jet that can fly at 90,000 feet in Mach 3. If you do it right, you're Gucci. Right. You can run the world if you do it right. So, like, we're in some sort of activation energy now. I guess for me, like the $100 quintillion question is, is this just a chaotic emergent phenomena that the system's finally collapsing, or are there good guys somewhere pushing this?
Yeah, I don't get any sense that it's the latter. To me, it is totally emergent.
I think you're probably right. I don't want it to be that.
I think there's a little bit of both. I think at a certain level, we're all staring into the fucking abyss and going, what? And I think that's where we are at this point. There's a whole lot of people are staring into the abyss and going, "They suck what? You want us? No, we're not going there."
Yeah. So Tom,
whether or not there's enough of a counter process to stop the emergent chaos. Oh, that's a good question. I think it's an open question, but I think to completely discount the idea that there aren't people staring at this situation going, "We can't go there."
We haven't even touched on the financial corner. And what do you think the prospects are that somebody is actually preparing to just pull the plug on the banking system? And Dave, maybe you have an opinion about that. too.
There's times where it's discouraging because it could be the whole boom bust cycle is just some guy throwing switches on us. Certainly when the Fed decides it's time to tighten, they're telling us get out of the way because this is going to get ugly. I don't even believe that Powell has gone soft necessarily in his recent statements. I'm not convinced that he's actually lost spine. I will be completely stunned if we don't see a downturn soon. You can't take rates where he took them as fast as he took them without broken teeth and stuff like that. So the guys who think that, oh great, Powell's now going to turn, everything's hunky dory. Now what really troubles me is that in his historical downturns, we've always started them euphoric. Think of the .com bubble, for example. We thought it was this brave new world was coming. Tech was just going to do everything. And then we get the wake-up call that says, oh, by the way, that's not true. Come out of the 08-09, we entered it thinking, oh, everyone gets to own a house and everything, and we can all get mortgages, even if you're broke and you have lousy credit, stuff like that. I don't see euphoria. So if we start a downturn now and everyone's as pissed off as they are now, where does it go from here, right? That's my big concern, is that we're starting from such an awful baseline of temperament. Right. Most people already want to burn the system to the ground now. And we haven't even, crudely speaking, I think we're about somewhere between 120 and 150% overvalued in the markets over historical fair value. That assumes if you only go back to historical fair value, you're going to clip 60% off your net worth.
And you're not going to only go back that far.
Well, my arithmetic says you got to spend half your time below it. And, people think the markets always go up, and that's just not true. History shows that's not true. All you have to do is look at the Nikkei, and you can go decades without making serious progress towards getting wealthier. And so I don't know what happens to the boomers if you clip 60 or 70% off their net worth, right? Most of them are just not ready for that.
They can't all be Walmart greeters.
That's right. That's right. And you say, well, then the Fed's going to print money. And I go, and if the price of fucking turkey goes from, I recently paid $13.99 a pound for sliced turkey. What the fuck is that all about? I was with a fucking business school guy the other night, and he's trying to say, well, inflation, you're just seeing the stuff that's going up. I go, no, I'm not. I was talking with Jimmy Iorio on a panel discussion, and someone asked him an inflation question. And I said, wait a minute, before you answer it, let me jump in. I said, you own a restaurant. What's the inflation rate according to the cost of goods going into your restaurant? He says 20% a year for 2 years. That's his inflation numbers.
Yep.
And so when the average person goes to the store and can't feed their family with their paycheck, we got a big ass problem.
Aren't we there yet?
We are there. We are there. They're using credit cards. They're using all sorts of shit.
Is 4 meals away from chaos.
Because, I live in a really poor town, and I can't imagine how these people are getting by.
I can't either.
There's not an item in the store that's under $5.
Right. And they started out not being able to rub 2 nickels together.
Yeah.
That's the staggering part. That was prior to the, people are saying, oh, there already was inflation. I go, yeah, but now we got the kind that's totally in your face. When was the last time you saw some guy on Twitter cackling about how it'll make his mortgage cheaper? And I go, how's that working for you now? Is your mortgage getting any cheaper? No, because your paycheck's not going up. And by the way, if your paycheck goes up and keeps up with the cost of goods and services, the Fed will step on the fucking economy because that's inflation. And so that no matter how you cut it, the little guy's gonna get stepped on. The little guy's gonna hurt. The middle class is gonna hurt because they've got savings that are gonna get cut in half.
Well, then how do you think Joe Biden's doing?
Joe Biden, as long as they keep a steady supply of young children, he'll be fine.
Is he on the pedo list?
Because that's
is he on the pedo list? For sure.
He is on the pedo list. He is on it, whether it's true or not, but watch him sniff little girls and tell me he didn't buy kids.
Yeah, I mean, there is that.
You don't need a list. You just watch him on press conferences.
Yeah, and there's no way that, now what may be false, this is actually one of the stories that made me frustrated with Google, is that I tried to Google his daughter's claim that she didn't want to take showers, and all you find are fact checks. That's nothing, wall to wall fact checks. So I couldn't actually find. I was pretty sure there was an interview.
It's in her diary.
Mm-hmm.
Right, but the diary is claimed to be a fake, claimed to be a meme. And so I'd end up taking it out because I couldn't confirm it. But so I was talking with Brandon Ike, who wrote JavaScript for Mozilla. So he basically wrote Firefox, and then he started Brave. And you go, well, go to Brave. Well, it turns out, and I don't know why he did this, Brave defaults to Google. And I'm going, so when I search on Brave, I'm just going to Google.
Yeah.
It used to be DuckDuckGo, and DuckDuckGo has to go to Google.
DuckDuckGo is different. Yeah, and
look, the algorithms are the search algorithms are all the same. Like this is, I mean, people have been, even DuckDuckGo, like they tell you flat out, it's like we have to use something close to Google's.
And they also jumped in on
algorithms
censoring.
that can be out there because they've all been patented.
They jumped in on censoring.
Yeah,
they jumped in on that last year when they came out and said we're not going to allow this information. It was about the Ukraine war, I think.
How long do you think that they can pretend that Joe Biden's running for president? Isn't that another one of the most preposterous things that they're putting over on the people of this country?
What I think is happening right now is that they're trying to figure out ways to get rid of Joe Biden. They have the problem of Kamala Harris standing in the way. They want Gavin Newsom. They don't know how to get rid of Kamala Harris because she's made it abundantly clear she's not going to be Spiro Agnew. I mean, this has been going. I've been saying this for months, and I keep seeing the same thing. But the body of evidence that's building up around Biden,
it's Newsom, yeah.
It's like at some point this whole thing has to collapse. So again, they haven't been able to figure out how to get to Kamala Harris and get her out of the way.
I forget about the fact that there's no way I'm going to believe the election, no matter what. In a fair and legitimate election, can Newsom beat Trump? I don't think he can.
No.
All they got to do is show videos of San Francisco 24/7 for 3 months.
That's exactly the infinite loop.
No, there's no way. It doesn't matter because ultimately this is what they want. But it's like I don't know what they're thinking because I know they can't win. Like there's no good hand here for these guys. Like there's no good hand they can play. Right.
Yeah.
So
there's one.
Yeah. Bang, bang.
Kill Trump.
No, that's not a good hand. They could, in my opinion. They're not going to. We've talked about this before. They could bring in Bobby Kennedy. Mm-hmm. But they're not going to because Pfizer will then cap somebody.
He wants to destroy the party anyway.
That's why they're not going to. But if they want to win the fucking thing and they can say, look, Bobby,
I think
you turn on us, you're following your relatives to the grave.
I think it's like when it's 3 a.m. and you have struck out with every girl and you finally go and then text the ex
that's my thinking. Yeah.
I know. I think they're looking at Bobby Kennedy and they're like, what do you say, boys? One more time.
I'm drunk enough now.
Yeah. They're like, what? We've done it twice.
I don't think that he'd sell out like that at this point.
No. Yeah. He wouldn't. They'll get rid of him.
I think that the Democratic Party is going to burn itself down with this business.
I agree. I agree. And I think in many ways that what we've seen so far is a setup for them acknowledging the fact that they can't stop Trump.
Yes.
And that knowing that they can't stop Trump, they'll just have to figure out how to get rid of him or invalidate the election in such a way that it sets up something terrible between the election and the inauguration. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm dead serious. Mm-hmm. And this is part of the reason why we're seeing the push behind, the Waffle House waitress. And why we've got H-1B
Wait a minute,
Obama.
What's the Waffle House waitress?
Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley's the Waffle House waitress.
Yeah, she's polling at like, what do you say, 5% or something?
Yeah, she's polling at 5-6%.
But as you also said on Monday, so was Biden.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
it could be World War III. They might be going Hail Mary.
Well, I mean, again, Tommy,
that's not a bad idea.
It's pretty obvious that like we know that they don't like elections to happen in ways that they don't approve of. Like this is
Trump supporters, though, will never vote for Nikki Haley. So it would have to be a rigged election on a colossal scale This is not just going to be, we got to get 5% to flip over
No.
somehow.
No, man.
A MAGA voter now is not going to vote for Nikki Haley. I
You know
don't
what
think.
you know what it feels like?
Nothing would get me to vote for Nikki Haley. Nothing.
It feels
If they
like
could put up fucking Kamala, I wouldn't vote for Nikki Haley.
There's no way I'll vote for Nikki Haley. None.
it feels like we're watching somebody with one too many pool balls slowly fill up the rack, and they're determined to get it all in there. And it's like, dude, I don't know how you're gonna. They're like, I got a sledgehammer, I got a hydraulic press, it's going in there, and you're going, that's turning into a claymore. I'm leaving. They're like, I just got to get it in there, bud. And you're going, I'm fucking getting out of here. It's something's happening. Maybe in the infinite possibilities of the universe, there's some weird quantum tunneling, and he gets the extra ball in there, and I don't. No, logic says
the only path for 2024 to not be a complete and utter disaster. Forget about whose team you're supporting. I think it's a total disaster for both parties. Is if somehow a good candidate shows up that we're not looking at.
What?
Now, a good candidate's not going to overtake Trump, so it's going to have to come from the left. The Democrats have to find a candidate,
and you know they don't. And Michelle Obama.
That's why I keep hoping.
I don't even, the whole argument about Michelle Obama. You and I talked about this on Monday, Dave. Invoking her as Big Mike, which made Rudy really.
Rudy was not happy with the Big Mike joke.
Yeah, he was not happy with the Big Mike thing, like at all. Michelle hates America enough to, be acceptable as their candidate, like
right.
And they want another term of Obama running the country because he's only had 4.
3.
No,
4, including Trump. He ran the shadow government under Trump.
Okay.
Let's not kid ourselves here. He's already had 4. He's already had 4. This is their FDR. He's just their black FDR, dude. Or mulatto FDR, or whatever the hell he is. It's very clear that that's what they want. But they don't have to get what they want. And this is why I look at this situation and I'm like, why are they acting the way they are today? Because they know full well that for all of his faults, Trump will go in on day one and start putting people in jail.
Do we know that? Do we know that?
And I think that they're just in absolute desperation mode to stop this however they can.
Do they
throw
fear
the
that,
furniture out the back of the truck, as Jim said earlier?
Do you think that's true that Trump would do that? I personally,
I do.
I think he is on a
and I'll tell you why.
Revenge.
Well, the other thing that'll scare him is
he has
because
been
Trump.
Wronged.
Yeah, no, it's not even for good reasons. It's because
right. Trump was personally wronged by these fucking
took my
people,
ball.
And he's
it was
fuck
my
you,
birthday,
I'm taking
and
you
you blew out the candles. I'm fucking stabbing you.
I'll tell you something else.
I think it's just Trump's persona.
They
absolutely deserve it. They absolutely deserve it.
Of course they
do.
But
the problem is, it doesn't mean that it won't be ultimately a super destructive period in history.
Of course.
Well, no, it'll be bad.
I did, of course, Dave. I didn't say this would be a good outcome.
No.
It would be partially the right outcome. I mean, and again, and to Rudy's point the other day when we were chatting with him, we've been through worse as a country.
Sure.
And sometimes it takes a really awful period, and there's certain things that have to happen. I am not a fan of Lincoln at all, but the country was under, you could make a very credible argument that the country at that point was under external threat by foreign forces to pull the country apart. When you map who was backing the South, the Brits and the fucking French were backing the South, and Lincoln did a whole lot of to save the Union, I've got to destroy the Union. Right? This is kind of you can make the argument sympathetically. Again, I'm not a fan of Lincoln. I don't like what the outcome was, but I can see why from that perspective, I can understand Lincoln. Okay. I don't like it, but I can entertain it. And I can see that there are things that have to be done. And we're at the hour is late. All this stuff this is dangerous. And he trampled the fucking Constitution to try and keep the country together. And you can make the argument that had he not done so, we would have never had the opportunity to set up, again, take the really long view of history, right? That go back to the idea of the Chinese foreign minister who was asked, what do you think of the French Revolution?
Too
And he
soon.
said, it's too early to
Too
tell.
soon to
10
know, yeah.
years after it happened, right? Well, take the same argument, take that same perspective and apply it to the American Revolution. And I've made the argument, again, going back to the whole financial markets thing, that getting rid of LIBOR, moving over to SOFR, and for the first time in the history of the United States, we have our own debt indexing rate and can price our own fucking currency in a way that we, as Americans, have control over, as opposed to City of London. And that everything that happened after Cornwallis surrendered at Yorktown, where we wound up with the Constitution as opposed to the Articles of Confederation, that in many ways you could make the argument that this has just been a one big long fucking British operation to get their fucking colonies back. You can write American history from that perspective, and then go, oh, so maybe what we're really looking at here is that moment where it's it's finally, finishing off the Declaration of Independence, and that's taken this long to actually get rid of these fucking people.
Finish off what the Beatles started.
Can anyone name an event in history where there was a big turnover akin to the American Revolution that ended smoothly, which the American Revolution did?
Yeah, the Russian overthrow of communism was the most remarkably bloodless transition that we've seen in modern history.
I guess that's
right.
right.
Jim.
Yeah, no, that was supposed to end in thermonuclear Armageddon, and it just kind of broke down into oligarchy. That's actually pretty fucking good. That's a plane landed and didn't hit anything. We're like, oh, all right. I mean,
okay.
Jim, that's actually perfect. Yeah, no.
And then if you think about the 10 years after that, right, under Yeltsin, that was all a Western attempt to take control of the chaos of the situation engendered by the breakdown of communism. And then Putin comes in and says, yep, no, this period of history is over. I'm in charge. We're putting these people in jail. We're stopping this process. And then we're now 25, 23, 24 years down the line. And what's Russia doing? It's over and over and over again, working its way to getting independence from the West. And, Putin came out the other day during his 4-hour annual Q&A that he does, and he was asked about this, and he finally admitted to the one mistake that Putin observers like myself and others like Mercouris and others, we've talked about this, and he said the biggest mistake that Putin made was that he trusted the Europeans, and specifically he trusted the Germans and Angela Merkel, right?
Oh, he said that before, though. He has said that before.
He has said
lamented
the
trusting of NATO's word. He has lamented that many times.
Yes, and then so you can argue that it wasn't just that; it was that he's really put that in place. So now go back and think about, when did he actually declare Russia's independence? Well, that would be the 2007 Munich Security Conference speech. Remember, Putin was at the 2007 Munich Security Conference and gave a speech that pretty much said, fuck you. This is unacceptable. And then since then, we've slowly been moving towards quote unquote World War III for the last 16 years.
Well, I think we need a moment in this country, which is going to be like the moment in the movie The Deer Hunter, where the character played by Robert De Niro, and let's forget for the moment where he's at currently, but the character played by De Niro, they're out in the Pennsylvania woods, and he's had a lot of trouble with this character, the Pussy character played by Johnny Cazale. Remember him?
Mm-hmm.
And he holds up the bullet and he says, "This is this. This is this." A very cryptic remark, but that is exactly the moment that America needs. It needs a clarifying moment where the truth is the truth. This is this. We're not going to live with, two standards of truth. The misinformation and untruth and disinformation, and it's going to be a this is this moment.
I don't see how we get there with the internet.
I think we get that way in the first 3 months of the first 100 days of Trump.
He rounds up these people.
He puts people on trial like these fucking people like Mary McCord and Lisa Monaco and
Fiona Hill, all of them.
Fiona Hill, Strzok, that fucking woman who was the ambassador to Ukraine, Eric Charmilla, Comey, Sally Yates, that whole fucking gang. They go on trial, and we're going to find out that this is this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Exactly. I think you're
But
right.
we have to have it. We have to have an end of the
press-
illusions moment.
The press.
The press, when all is said and done, the press is a bunch of pussies.
Well, yeah, well, they work.
I'm going on the assumption they're not working for Trump, though.
Nope.
No, they're not working for Trump, but they'll
Well,
they'll work with whoever they have to work with.
Well, they didn't work with him when he was president.
Well, the first time he got buffaloed, he didn't know what he was doing.
Well, there's a
Yeah,
lot of
he-
that.
he-
I think the other side of this, Jim, I think, and Dave, just to make this point, that once the whole thing starts to break down, the rats leave the sinking ship. Everybody's going to stand back and no, I didn't do anything wrong, and they're all going to sit there. And it's like the Joe Scarboroughs and
And they're
all
going to
of
rat
them, and
each
they're
other
all
out
dead.
too.
They're all listen to the level of histrionics that these people are going through at this point. They say we can't have him coming back into power. It would be the end of democracy. No, it would be the end of you.
Yeah, and they're going to rat each other out.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, look at the very end
It's
of
just, it just goes back to the enlightened self-interest and all the rest of it. But at some point, they know where all the bodies are buried, and they're going to cut fucking deals. This is my good friend Alexander Mercouris says this all the time. He's like, I have an interesting perspective on this. Legal time moves slower than political time. He's right.
I like that phrase. I heard
Okay.
on Monday you used that, and I liked it.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody again, it's like it's really important to understand that things are happening at us, and you can see it if you look really, really closely at what's happening within the DC echo chamber. That things are happening, but they're very slow. You have
There's
to
another
build the
thing that's
case,
going on right now.
build the pressure slowly.
A really weird story that started late this week to the effect that Donald Trump, that the real reason for the Mar-a-Lago raid was that the FBI was desperate to go in there and get a dossier that Trump assembled in the late moments and hours of his administration, or over the weeks previous, of all of the documentation of all the fuckery that went on at the FBI, the DOJ, and other agencies, State Department, that, amounted to all the hoaxes that were run on him. And it's a huge dossier. And apparently copies were made and distributed, but they were all redacted, heavily redacted. And then there was one copy that had no redactions. And that was supposedly in Trump's possession. And they thought they might snatch it at Mar-a-Lago. And apparently they didn't get it. And I think that's, to me, what I noticed this week, it's the one thing that really accounts for Trump's confidence in all of these roadshow campaign events that he's been doing, is that I think he really has the goods on these guys.
PEAD, PEAD, Presidential Emergency Action Documents that go back to Eisenhower. And it's shit that only like the president can put in place. And for Armageddon, and Armageddon doesn't necessarily have to be, it's to save the Union, you have to destroy the Union. It can be anything. It can be thermonuclear war. It can be bioweapons. It could be a hacked election. I don't know. But they stay in place until the perceived threat is over. And that's really weird. And he put in acting secretary of Defense, Chris Miller, that former Special Forces guy. And I don't know if you guys ever seen that in like the final weeks of like his presidency. Chris Miller, this hardened fucking Green Beret. Yeah, I don't know what he's 60s, 70s now. He's giving a speech, he looks over at like Pence or Trump and he's like, and thank you. He starts choking up. He goes, for helping me pull off the most complex military operations in recent history. And you're like, what? And then that's it. And that guy was also heavily involved in planning for continuity of government. There's some, I don't know what any of this is, but there's some really weird, and there's been all these inquiries by senators into Trump's PEADs, but you can't get access, but they're still trying to pry in. Like, what was he saying? What was it? And it's still something, I don't know what it is. have
And
no
what
idea
was
what it
Kash
is.
Patel's role in that as
Yeah,
Miller's chief of staff? You
Yeah,
know,
I don't know. I don't have no idea what it. It might be that they're all just fucking us in the ass, and if we're lucky, we'll end up on
I
episode.
don't think
I've
so.
I'll put on braids. I don't care.
I don't think
But there,
so.
no, but there's something odd. You put a gun in my head. I wouldn't be able to tell you. Put a lie detector on me. I wouldn't be able to tell you with pure certainty that he doesn't have the goods. I don't know what that means, but I couldn't
I
tell
think
you
he's
now.
got
He's done.
documentary evidence of exactly what these people were doing to each other,
There's
including
some
all the memos.
He
there.
also
Yeah, there's something fucking
is
weird.
ready to put together
The A team.
a war cabinet, unlike 2016 when he was in a complete shit show where he didn't know who he could trust and he didn't know, so he basically brought his family in.
Yeah,
Now he knows who to trust. He knows where the spoons and forks are, and he can build a war cabinet, much like Bush Jr. did, but for a different war.
man, I interviewed Fred Burton, who is the former head of security at Stratford, I think, and he had worked in the U.S. embassies, and he wrote a great book. But in his book, he talks about going into one of Trump's casinos or something in like the 90s, going into like the command and control room. He said he was looking around and he was like, the Pentagon would envy this type of full spectrum surveillance. And so I always think about that quote. That was his private company and the notes he took. And that always, and then another Trump quote. Um, I always have wondered and yearned for a day where I lose everything so I can see who's really on my side. There's just a lot.
Trump said that.
There's a lot of weird, just like, is he bluffing?
Wow.
Oh.
I never heard that.
That's
expound on that. I want to hear more about that.
That's introspective beyond what I thought he had.
Yeah.
By the way, there's a 3-part documentary called Trump Dynasty, the Trump Dynasty, which is worth finding and watching. My wife and I were watching it, and at first she was getting irritated because she doesn't like Trump, but she's not rabid, but she doesn't like Trump. And by the end, she said, that was really good. And it showed both. What was funny is the parts they showed of Trump that you could be hypercritical of also illustrated a chutzpah, a kind of a skill to do something like he built a major facility in New York City on land and finished it without ever getting the signatures because no one bothered to look. And you're going, okay, that's criminal, but you're going, but holy fuck, how do you not give a hat tip to that guy, right? I mean, and I know the other developers in New York City all were infuriated by him, but marveled at his capacity. Like when the unions were on strike and you couldn't get concrete delivered. Trump's project was getting concrete. And you go, well, that's obviously crooked. And they go, that's a guy who knew how to not be beaten.
Donald Trump, someday I'd like to lose everything to see who's loyal and who's not loyal. I mean, there's just little breadcrumbs that I'm like, I don't. Now, who knows? Maybe it's all bluffing. This is also what you would do if you had nothing. You'd be like, fucking scare him. But there's just some weird, and for the fucking sake of just me not getting no-knocked, we're talking about hypotheticals and how much they hate Trump. They absolutely, I personally believe this. If they could kill him, they would have by now. I don't think that they're choosing not to.
I don't know, because he might be more dangerous now.
I think he's got some loyalty somewhere. I mean, how do you not? We can.
By the way, I saw a tweet the other day by General Flynn.
Yeah.
That had hashtag Pizzagate.
Yeah, man. There's some weird shit. There's some odd shit going on, man.
I'm trying to divert you from that thought process, but it just came to me. But General Flynn, hashtag
I mean,
Pizzagate.
it's like, man, there's some weird shit. And like, man, if I'm someone in like the NSA,
guess who's going to be Secretary of Defense?
Yeah, right.
General Flynn.
No, me. But it's like, there's someone somewhere that has the same sensibilities as just like an adult male, but who's like who is like 9 layers deeper than like TSSCI at the NSA. He's probably made up in his mind, like, you know what, like if it all goes south, I'm just gonna. It's like the cheesy scene from every alien invasion movie where the aliens take over every screen on the planet. Someone's got a fucking encrypted drive where they're just gonna be like, you know what, fuck this shit. Plug it in, make sure it comes up on every phone of just, I don't know, the most damning shit, and then I don't know, he'll blow his brains out or something as you know, as he gets no knocked. But there's just too much. There's too many like hair trigger. I don't know what. I mean, who knows what fucking dead man switches exist? It's just, I don't know.
Yeah, I hear you, Tommy. There's like Trump. They know they can't. I don't know. Maybe they can't. This Trump being around at this point is kind of prima facie evidence that he has people
Yes.
who are keeping him around.
No
Like
answer is an answer.
He's prima facie evidence himself of the
Who's his
existence of a
VP? Who's his
counter-revolution
VP?
in
Who's his
DC.
VP? Who's his VP?
That doesn't matter right now. Just what Tom's pointing out is important. It's like what Dave, when you said you Google something and you see it's fact check. Well, that is the answer. You know, Mr. Tommy, what do you think about this? I'm not answering questions today. That's an answer. Trump is alive. Something's fucked for them. I don't know. Maybe it's bottom of the fucking 9th inning and he's barely alive. I don't know. Maybe he's got more power than we know. The fact that he is alive, VP Tulsi, Jim, you're allowed to talk. Yeah. So I don't know. That's my thoughts on it.
What I would say, it's like, it was interesting after Jamie Dimon, for example, came out, CEO of JP Morgan, came out in favor of Nikki Haley. And my first, right now, think about that. I just go with me on this one for a second.
I know.
When Dimon came out and said Nikki Haley, okay, we went, me and my community and everybody around me, we all went like 18 layers deep into this. Like, why would he do that? He's like, if he's part of the you know, he's part of the cabal that's trying to stop what's happening. If my theory about the banks and the Fed and everything else is true, then that seemed discordant, right? And then I was chatting with a friend of mine. He just kind of looked at me. He was like, dude, Dimon crossed party lines. Dimon, most of the guys, the big wigs on Wall Street are Democrats. What does Wall Street always do? Wall Street always gives equally to both sides because they don't want to be stuck with the vindictive, you know, the getting revenged by the party that they didn't back. So if they all back the Democrats and the Republicans win, then they're all going to get fucked when the Republicans come to power because they didn't give them any money. So Wall Street always hedges its bets smartly, buys both sides of the trade, gives equally. Dimon coming out and saying, no, Nikki Haley. That was like saying, guys, you don't have to give equal money to the Democrats this year.
Yeah.
That's all it meant. And it's literally that. And then that sets the process in motion of going, yes, we're going to starve them of their cash.
But it's also revealing, you know, normally if you're betting on a horse, you're not saying, okay, I'm putting my money on number 15. Right. And it's just that's an outside bet that you make for laughs, hoping that you get a 50-1 payout or something.
Or you're sending a message.
You're sending a message.
No, that's right. No, that's right. So that's a fundamental message that the fact that she's ranked way down the list doesn't mean shit.
It means nothing. It means that it would be fine if it also means that if Trump is, I mean, you can always say, okay, well, if Trump winds up not being the GOP nominee, then we have bought Haley and we're going to make her do what we want her to do. Now the question is, of course, what is that going to be? We can't buy the other ones, or they're not, or that, and look, Nikki Haley has nothing as a candidate if she doesn't have big GOP donors behind, if she doesn't have the donor class behind her. Right. So that's the other problem here. Look, when the Democrats' big donors are running articles in Politico and Axios or wherever it was the other day saying that the Democrats have a Kamala Harris problem, that's a big fucking tell. they don't want Kamala Harris and they don't know how to get rid of her, and that they have put their money behind Gavin Newsom, right? Wall Street coming out and saying Nikki Haley, that's saying we want that the forces within the Republican Party that are ascendant, and the changing of the guard is already happening. And that again, these are just little. Again, we're trying to read tea leaves here. I'm not saying this is correct, but these are the things you should think about. These are the little nuances to try and see if we can find what's actually happening. I don't know. But I keep throwing it out there because to me it was really discordant when Diamond came out and did that, because he's the head honcho on Wall Street.
It's also very telling, and we can wrap this up whenever, by the way. We've been going for 2.5. Is even when we just look at like exporting goods and war material, not even weaponry like the F-22, which we don't sell even to our allies, but just whatever. There's all sorts of shit. Nationally, you can't sell that, and it's often classified. You're not told you can't sell unless you're the guy selling it. They come to you and go, "Hey, you can't fucking sell that to wherever, Madagascar." Man, like someone somewhere signed off on not building up a massive horseshit case for Elon Musk buying Twitter, which is the global town square. And it's not nothing that the guy who was like a coordinated CIA hit, removed from all platforms, Alex Jones, is now back on and does an interview with Tucker Carlson, and then like 3 days later with Elon Musk too. Like, just I don't know what that means, but it means the very fact that it happened is like we don't have the complete picture. There's this iceberg's big. I don't know what shape it is. Maybe it's
he's deep state from head to toe, right? Every company ever did was something that you would say the deep state has an interest in.
Yeah, but why is Tucker Carlson and Alex Jones doing a 20 million view interview about election integrity? That's the very same thing that will get you banned.
I don't know.
That's what I mean. I don't know either, but
I compiled Tucker's pre-firing third rail touches. I'd been collecting them, and Tucker, before getting canned, had been touching the third rail with unbelievable reckless abandon. There's things you just don't talk about, and he went to every last one of them. So either it's as simple as he wanted to get fired because that was the way he would be freed up.
Yeah, from his contract. No, it could be. It could be.
Or something else. I don't know. But now they're paying his salary because supposedly it puts a gag order on him, but they can't stop him from speaking for free because that's free speech.
Yeah, man.
So they're paying for him to hammer them. They're paying for him to hammer them.
That's what I'm saying is like, some things I'm very certain on. Like if I let go of this phone, it's gonna fall. I'm very certain. I would take 100% bet on that. Put a gun in my head. Yeah, we're not in orbit. There's nobody around about to grab it. Yeah, this phone's gonna fall. Other than something like that, I'm not 100% certain in saying that like the deep state coup is complete. Like I couldn't pass a lie detector test. Maybe it's just my own hope. Maybe it's optimism. But there's just too many little breadcrumbs that make me go, yeah, man, something's for them, for the other side, for the bad guys, something's fucked, right? They're almost gonna win, but like, and I don't understand sports at all, so it might be a bad analogy, but it's like Tom Brady getting the ball with 2 minutes left. They're like, dude, I've seen him do this like 9 times. Like, we shouldn't celebrate yet. Like, that motherfucker, he might march down and do. I don't know if he will. All I'm saying is like, don't start cheering. That's kind of what I'm looking at this as. It's still the odds are slim, but they're not zero, and that's I don't know, man. It's so huge that he did a 1 term in office. He actually got in there, and he was the goddamn president of the most powerful nation on earth. I mean, that ain't nothing. It's not like we're talking about a hypothetical.
Well, you'd also have a tough time identifying something he did that was awful.
Yeah,
very tough time.
So
people say
killing Soleimani was a bad idea,
but it was funny.
And but that's not awful. It's totally consistent with the U.S. empire doing what we do, right? That's that's not Trump derangement syndrome awful.
No,
I'm
no,
talking
no, no,
about-
no,
That
no,
scene
no,
was
no,
pretty
no, no,
awful,
no,
but
No,
you
no, no,
know,
no. But at the time,
know.
he delegated, right?
Yeah,
At the
yeah.
time, when he
Also, he had
sort
all
of-
these, experts who were basically shoving him into that.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
no,
yeah,
I get it. I get it. It's one of the few times where he didn't let his instinct of
he should have
not
fired
listening to these
Fauci when
people.
he realized, but he was up to his ass in other fights. The last thing he needed to do was to fire the guy who most of the people in the world thought was saving everybody.
Yeah, yeah, true.
Right. So he was cornered by that. It was, Fauci had to be caught in bed with a 5-year-old, which probably they could have if they wanted.
You know, they have that video somewhere. Dave will
What's
be
scary is all they got to do is find child pornography on their computer, and they can put that there any day they want. So
Yep.
yeah. So
Hey, do any of you follow the great aphorist Amy Therese on Twitter?
no.
No, she's really fabulous. It's AIMEETERESE. She is just a fabulous wit.
AIMEEPERSE.
No, AIMEE, last name TERESE.
PERESE.
TERESE. AIMEETERESE.
I'm not seeing her.
AIMEETERESE.
T is in pony?
No, T is in Tommy gun.
As in okay, I found her.
Okay.
I
wanna
found
read
several.
I want to read you one of her quotes from yesterday. She says, "If you're so infantile that you fret over being magnanimous towards your enemies because you fear it will come across as weakness, you're not ready for political prime time, let alone the presidency. Nobody likes a small-souled little bitch who lacks generosity of spirit." And there was another one that she put up that was, yeah, here's the other one she put up a little bit earlier. She said, "Until we bring back male bullying as opposed to the effeminate manipulative variety, we will be ruled over by women and homosexuals, actual and aspiring. Boys grow up retarded if they don't fear being beat up, if they act like a whiny little fag. This is a major
Jesus
social problem."
Christ.
fuck yeah.
Did you see the post of Biden's wife and those guys dancing around the White House?
I sure did. Yeah, yeah. It's just
Oh
more
my
faggotry.
fucking Lord. Someone
your
called
face.
them uncaught pedophiles.
Yeah.
I heard from the great Tim Dillon. He was talking about, he's like, if you need to go haggle like at a store, like bring a woman. He's like, because a woman will leave there scorched earth, and rightfully everyone will hate her, but you'll have the deal. And he goes,
Well, my wife lived in Morocco for a year, so she's the queen of haggle.
but he goes, so he then quotes Ann Coulter, which I didn't know was an Ann Coulter quote. He goes, there is a reason why women shouldn't be in the military, but it has nothing to do with physical fitness. It's because they are way too cruel. And like, and then it just flashes to Lindy England, the Abu Ghraib bitch with the cigarette, and you go, "Oh fuck!" So, I mean, yeah, yeah. So,
Here's another great Amy Therese one.
And Coulter and my wife can hang out together.
yeah.
Here's another great Amy Therese. She says, "I've never seen adults go as batshit crazy retarded as Trump makes the malicious liars and cry bullies in the media. He didn't attempt a coup. There was no insurrection. He didn't collaborate with Russia, and he's not a Putin puppet. Nor is he a racist, fascist, dictator. Grow up."
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. But gents, you want to wrap this bitch up? It's 2:36, and well, nobody's watching because it's not streamed. So I don't know what the fuck that was. I texted the Rumble people, and they looked into it, and I don't know, fuck me. But hopefully it means that these powwows are getting big enough that we got fucked in the ass. But doesn't matter. I'll just still upload it.
How do you see the count of 1 million? And that just caught me by surprise on that.
Oh, so I go and check my. I always
So
do.
you have stats that I can't see.
No,
Are
no, no.
they?
You can, you can see. So go to my show and then sort by
What's this on
video.
Rumble? Is on
Yeah.
Rumble?
Yeah, and then sort by view count. Episode 1043, the first episode of this year, Insurrection Cast, 1.2 million views.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
Dang.
it opened with us talking about how Dave was shot dead on the steps of the Capitol on January 6th, on the anniversary. You were trying to recreate the best day of your life. I had no idea a million people were going to see that. I apologize.
So, David, Dave,
I don't.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Dave,
Tom taps.
Dave.
He fucking gets me. What?
Hey,
Oh,
Dave. Dave, this guy you follow, his name is Stephen Coughlin,
Yes.
STEPHEN.
Let me see if I can find him. Let me just Steve STHSEPHEN Twitter. I don't think he's super active. Let me see if I recognize his face. Yeah, there he is. STEPHENCOUGHLIN.
Mm-hmm.
And he is, if you want the actual Twitter feed, at capital S underscore capital C
Yeah, I see it.
Coughlin underscore DC.
Yep.
Very soft spoken guy, but just wisdom, just super wisdom.
Tell him to come on.
And I was actually invited to give a talk to the Doc Zoom group crowd, which is pretty good because again, they had an elite group, including Vigano. And apparently Coughlin showed up. He wasn't there that day. It's apparently someone had emailed him, said Collum's on, you got to go there. So in any event, yes, Coughlin's got a guy named Lee Slusher.
I've had Lee on here.
Lee Slusher is
Yeah.
a 4-time tour of duty analyst in the region of the world we call Ukraine.
Yeah.
And when Prigozhin got when Prigozhin supposedly went against Putin, I asked Lee, I said, is there any chance? He said no. And so I have this great, I wrote about this. I have this great meme that shows Prigozhin looking at the camera, sort of slouched over, and he says, I got drunkard and fucked last night. I didn't do anything stupid, did I?
Yeah, dude. That is pretty good. Well, gents, let's wrap this up because I gotta go piss. I'm very proud of myself. I didn't vomit. I didn't even go to the bathroom, which might be bad actually. That might be very bad.
Maybe you did, and you just have no
Yeah,
feeling.
no, now that I'm saying that out loud, I'm like, wait, I go to the bathroom for 30-minute episodes. We've been sitting here for 3 hours. That's a bad thing. For other people, that's good. For me, that's very bad.
Hope you have some good reading in there.
Yeah, right.
Or you're so dehydrated now, Tommy, that there's nothing coming out.
Actually,
None of that's good, dude.
Well, that's, I mean, dude, that's a very
That's
good
true.
point. Yeah. So, let's wrap this up, guys. Please go into the descriptions. You can find the links.
So you'll send us the link.
Yeah.
Send us the link.
I'll have to upload it, and it will take 30 minutes. Then it'll take like 30 more minutes to process, which is fucking gay. But I'll email to y'all when it's ready.
So you're gonna bleep out all the swear words, right?
Yeah, sure. Whatever you need, Dave. And I'm just gonna edit it so it's just Dave talking about Pizzagate. None of us ever saying a word. I'll be like, Dave really took
God,
by the reins.
The rest of this fucking cast is shit, so it doesn't matter.
The rest of the show is shit.
Before you sign off, Tommy, y'all, thank you as always. This
yeah.
was a great year. I enjoyed every one of these talks. And Merry Christmas. And I mean that sincerely to everyone, including Janet Yellen, who I know
Aren't
is
you
Jewish.
supposed to say Happy Holidays instead?
No,
Fuck
Merry
off.
fucking Christmas.
Merry goddamn Christmas. It's a Christmas tree in a beautiful country.
And Jim, have a wonderful holiday season because I know that all of it. We're all good.
Well,
I'm
fuck
a Christmas
you.
Thank you guys.
Yeah. No, Merry Christmas, Jim. You can have Christmas too.
I'm a Christmas Jew.
so-
we got a tree upstairs.
Oh, excellent. You're doing better than me.
Yeah.
Excellent.
So Jim
enjoy
goes
your
and
Christmas.
chokes the chickens. Tom goes and humps the goats and
And you
And
flog
you,
a dolphin.
and you do unmentionable things with Boston Terriers.
Yeah. And Dave's name comes out on the fucking Epstein client list. And the most heinous of them all.
And the most heinous of them all, the Boston Terrier.
right.
Fucker. All right, so with that,
321
we're out,
flights.
folks.
All right, guys. I love you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on these. I look forward to doing a lot of these next year, unless, of course, we're all killed today for talking about Pizzagate, which is a non-0% chance. Guys, please go in the description. Follow them on Twitter. All the links to their websites, Patreons, blogs, all that shit's in there. And like Tom said, earnestly, Merry Christmas to everyone, even the people you hate. It's a wonderful time. Enjoy it. We can hate each other in 11 days. We'll be right back at it. All right. Much love, everybody. Guys, thank you so much. Happy New Year's, everybody. Last show of